Yeah, we're live. Ian's excited. I'm excited. What's not to be excited about?
Come on, it's the night we've all been waiting for all year.
The vice presidential debate. The debate hasn't started yet. Big Perm, Denver. It starts at 9. And, well, we're going to be streaming it and talking about it. But going into it, this very exciting debate that is going to have probably zero impact whatsoever on whatever outcome may or may not be rigged.
Really, I'm still open. I'm
still
winnable.
open?
I'm gettable.
So you could be won over by Coach Walls.
I'm a gettable voter. He's
You should
white.
be in the front row of this.
He is white, and I'm white. I'm a
And
white
you're a
guy.
dude.
He's a white guy, and I'm a dude. So I have to really listen.
And your
to him.
sexuality is questionable.
Yeah.
A lot like his.
Yeah, and my military
Yeah,
experience is
it's made
questionable.
up. It's all made up
All
too,
made
just
up.
like his. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
I was only in high school honor guard. That's the extent of my military.
All right. It's just like
experience.
Tim Walsh.
Oh, you froze, Brad.
We're both for a while. Is it just me that's froze or you too?
Do
All
I
right.
freeze when you
Can you hear me?
freeze? I can hear you.
All right. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Okay.
We got our one out of the way.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm super stoked to hear. I'm the only thing I'm wondering is what Tim Walz's strategy's been since he's already prefaced us. He's prepared us the last few days, saying that I'm just a school teacher. I'm not some Yale graduate. Oh shit, I'm on the wrong side, Brad.
It
This
doesn't
feels
matter.
weird.
You're on the left side
Now
now.
it feels like I'm in charge.
That's how it works.
I don't want
Yeah.
to be in
So you
charge
got
of
it.
the show.
You take
dude.
over.
I don't have anything prepared, man.
Yeah. So I guess we learned our lesson. We are not to call gay Coach Walsh gay
Yeah.
because the CIA will cut the stream.
Oh, this has
They'll
already
freeze us.
been demonetized. They've already cut the stream as soon as you said.
Dude, the show we did last night with Force Mommy, who's in the chats, and she says she's not any kind of sober tonight center. It's funny. Well, they kicked it off of YouTube. They blocked it because we played an SNL clip and we were making fun of it, and we weren't even. I didn't even monetize it.
Well, I went on Jim Gaffigan's YouTube channel. He shared a clip from SNL, and it was taken away. Only in this country. Which,
Right.
I guess if you get a VPN and say you're in another country, you can get it.
Yeah, can you guys see me on Rockfin here? So making sure that one's feeds live. So yeah, well, no, it's bullshit. I appealed it because it's protected under the fair use. This has happened to me a number of times, but the fact that they blocked it and took it down because NBC, because SNL has a global ban on people using that for what you're allowed to cut clips of things. We only had about 2 or 3 minutes of it that we made fun of.
But they're allowed to wrongfully take it down and make you prove that you have the right to do that.
Right, exactly. I mean, it takes about a week for it to get back,
Yeah.
and they threatened to strike your channel.
And by that time, it's served its purpose. It's all the algorithms.
Exactly.
This sucks.
100%.
All
All right, so real quick before we get in, because I want to go through some of the betting markets. The one and only VP debate, as we talked about, is in about 4 minutes or so. And coming into the debate, the left-leaning media has been taking an interesting angle, talking Waltz down a good bit, saying stuff like Walls will have, or Walls. I think it's like Walls. I saw not an ad, but I saw somebody tweet out from the window to the walls, balls to the walls, which balls to the walls in the song where they're talking about an actual wall. Okay, but balls to the walls, W-A-L-Z,
All you white dudes for Kamala, put your balls to walls.
sounds a little gay, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Sounds a little gay.
it's gonna be a teabag party.
If I have to say, if somebody tries to teabag Coach Walls, he doesn't have any right to charge them or try to accuse them of anything because they called for it with this ad going around. But they were saying that he's going to have trouble against Vance because unlike Vance, Walls is going to be restrained by the truth.
Oh, well, the truth is limiting. It never sets you free.
I mean, that's actually a pretty hilarious thing to say.
Yeah,
with a
it's
straight
so
face,
stupid.
which great job,
Well-
Van Jones, who said that. Then another commentator, David Axelrod, agreed that Walls could struggle tonight because Walz is simply such a nice guy. He's gonna have a hard time with such a demon. He's just such a good coach. You need a tampon at halftime. You'll get one. You need a gender reassignment surgery at halftime.
I like how in this debate, he's saying that his resume is like to prepare for this was like, well, I'm a school teacher. No, you were a governor, right? You had to have gotten into some sort of debate before.
Governor, teacher, coach. I think.
Yeah, governor, teacher, coach.
I think Pete
soldier man.
Buttigieg prepared him for the debate, but I don't know that butt sex will help you perform well. I don't know what we're about to watch if that's the type of preparation they had. So what we're going to see is, I expect anyway. Here's a handful of things that I expect that they might cover tonight. There'll be bad football analogies. There'll be cat lady references by Walz, stolen valor talk, abortion, IVF, a project 2025. When you have a playbook, you use it. I bet that Walz kind of cucking himself like he usually does, just plain weird. Haitian immigrant talk. Vance will bring up the don't thing about Iran. Hurricane response failures, dock worker strikes. Maybe that comes up. Probably. I would also like to see the challenge of Coach Walz being able to catch a football from either Vance or the moderators, or as you mentioned that he was a defender or defensive coach, tackle somebody, show that you're actually knowledgeable about football. And looking real quick at the betting markets, because they have the same betting markets before this thing gets going, is they did last time, where they bet on what they'll say. And this time around, interestingly enough, this betting market has Kamala ahead 50-48 in the overall, as does Predictit.org, which has Kamala with a bigger lead.
Interesting.
But has her losing Georgia pretty by large. I don't know if these people are betting based on the fact that they think it's going to be stolen or that they actually think that she's winning. But when it says what will Walz say during the debate, 94% abortion. I think that's pretty good. Tampon. I don't know why Walz would say tampon, unless he's like, I need a break. My tampon needs to be changed.
Yeah.
69%.
Stop calling me tampon, you mean demon.
He might do that.
Yeah,
20 times saying Trump. That's a lot. 70% almost. 30 times saying Trump. 40% say that he'll do that. Kamala 15 times. Kamala Harris 83%. Abortion. Yeah.
Get on that abortion bet right now. I'm
the
sorry.
28%. That's a good bet. I agree.
That's a good bet.
So the bet is that he'll say abortion 5+ times, and only 28% of people say yes. Couch 19%. I'd love to hear him say couch. I don't think he will. I think he'll say sofa.
I think or lazy boy.
Yeah, lazy boy. Ottoman. I think he'll say ottoman.
Footstool.
Yeah, ice maker. A teacher. 89% weird. 50%. I get on that bet.
Yeah.
It's 2-0 already, Stone. I didn't even look at it because my friend Ridgeway
get on that
texted
bet right
me.
Right now.
I saw that. Yeah.
We're picking them. We're picking them right here. Propaganda report picks.
Football 71%.
You should do weekly picks for this, man.
I mean, these bets are. Yeah, they're kind of fun bets. You can even bet on when the next bomb is going to drop in Israel or Iran.
Oh, racist? Racist? That's 51%?
A racist, that's a good one, 51%.
I can get on that. Yeah.
Concept. Oh, concept of a plan. We'll say that. Israel, all that. Let's look at J.D. Vance real quick, and then we'll dive into this thing.
What about kids? What about the word kids?
I didn't see that one on there. That's a good one.
So someone create it right now. Someone create kids. You can start your own bets on this, right?
I don't know.
I'll bet
I don't, maybe. It's a good question.
Yeah, kids would be a big one because that's one of Waltz's favorite things to say. I like
and
protecting
favorite
our
thing
kids.
to give candy to from a windowless white van. Abortion 92% for Vance. Tampon 31%. I don't think either one are saying tampon. I would love for tampon to come up. Mall, is that his grandmother?
That's what Vance.
Is that what that is?
That's Vance's grandma.
Border 5 times, Trump 20. So these are all pretty easy. Well, if he says Trump 30 times, I mean 30 times.
90 minutes, right?
It's only 90 minutes.
So that he have to say it every 3 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, if he's got a lot of money riding on that bet, then maybe he will. He's rigging it. He's rigging the language bet here. Kamala Harris 30 times. What if he says Kamala here? What if he says it wrong? Does it still count?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, mispronouncing it.
Haitian 37%.
Trans.
inflation,
That's surprisingly
trans.
low.
You know, I think he might say Haitian. Actually, I think Walls will say Haitian.
Is immigrant on here? Why
I
isn't
haven't seen it
immigrant on
yet.
here?
Who's Usha? What is that?
No idea. OSHA? Were they trying to say OSHA?
USH? I don't know.
I mean, this is a worldwide thing, right? Aren't people from all over the world betting on this?
hillbilly.
Right?
He's going to call
So
himself
there's-
maybe.
There's a
Well,
lot
not
of
people in
non-
Israel and Palestine. Yeah, they're fighting right now. They can't say it. Cat.
Stolen valor.
Stolen,
I mean,
rigged or rigged with an R, not an N, guys.
Illegal alien.
Stop it. Just stop it. It's with an R.
I can't believe immigrants not on there.
Oh, is that his wife, Dana? Oh, thank you, Dana. That's his wife, Iran. All right. Thank you. Yeah, he probably will say
OSHA,
that.
that's his wife. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's his
OSHA.
Usha. All right, here we go. Let's get this bad boy up here and see how these two jackasses are doing. And they're jackasses, let's be honest.
Oh god. Oh look, he's trying to look scared. What a little baby.
I can't stand this
Well,
guy.
I just want to
dude.
thank you for letting me be
Started
here.
October 7th, Hamas terrorists
October 7th.
massacred over 1,400 Israelis and took prisoners. Israel's ability to be able to defend itself is absolutely fundamental. Getting its hostages back, fundamental, and ending the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But the expansion of Israel and its proxies is an absolute fundamental necessity for the United States to have the steady leadership there. You
He looks
saw
a little
experience
shaky.
today, where along with our Israeli partners and our coalition, able to stop the incoming attack. But what's fundamental here is that steady leadership is going to matter. It's clear, and the world saw it on that debate stage a few weeks ago. A nearly 80-year-old Donald Trump talking about crowd sizes is not what we need in this moment.
Waltz will
But
just
it's not
read
just that.
a-
It's
a-
those that
a
were
children's
closest to Donald
story
Trump
to our enemies,
that understand how dangerous he
leaders,
is
and that's
when
how
the
he's gonna
world is this
negotiate with them.
dangerous.
He's gonna lull
His
them
chief of staff, John
into
Kelly,
compliance.
said that he was the most flawed
Yeah,
human
he'll
being
help
he'd
him
ever
learn
met.
the nickel off
And
defense.
both of his secretaries of defense and his national security
definitely
advisors
has that
said he
NPR
should be
appeal.
nowhere near the White House. Now,
He's
the
going to
person
teach Israel how to
closest them,
blitz Iran.
Donald Trump said he's unfit for the highest office. That was Senator Vance. What we've seen out of Vice President Harris is
Vance
we've seen
look-
steady leadership.
Vance looks like
We've
he
seen a
drinks about
calmness
12 tall
that is able
boys
to
on
focus
Sunday after
draw
all.
on
Vance
the
looks like
coalitions
he's
to bring them
he's
together.
channeling Homelander from the
Understanding
boys right
that
now.
our allies
About to
matter.
laser
When
eye him.
our allies see Donald Trump turn towards Vladimir Putin, turn towards North Korea, when
I
we
hope he
start to
turns to
see
the camera
that
when
type of
Waltz is done and
fickleness around
goes,
holding the
"What the
coalitions
fuck
together,
did he just
we
say?"
will stay
Just like
committed.
Trump.
And as
Just-
the Vice President said today is, we will protect our forces and our
Because,
allied
I'm
forces,
speaking.
and there will
I'm
be
speaking.
consequences.
Governor, your time is
He
up.
looks
Senator
like a
Vance,
deer in
the same
headlights,
question.
Walz
Oh my
did.
Would you support or oppose a preemptive strike by Israel on Iran?
Both these
You have 2
moderators are
minutes.
of
Margaret, I
Irish
wanna
descent,
answer
by
the
the way.
question.
I
First
don't
of
know
all,
the
thanks,
significance
Governor.
of that,
Thanks to
but-
CBS for hosting the debate, and thanks most importantly
Well,
to the
so
American
am I,
people who
so
are
maybe I
watching
can
this
figure
evening.
it out.
because
and
of you,
caring
yeah,
enough
yeah.
about this country
Yeah.
to pay attention to this vice presidential debate. I want to answer the question, but I want to actually give an introduction to myself a little bit because I recognize a lot of Americans don't know who either one of us are. I was raised in a working class family. My mother required food assistance for periods of her life. My grandmother required Social Security help to raise me, and she raised me in part because my own mother struggled with addiction for a big chunk of my early life. I went to college on the GI Bill after I enlisted in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. And so I stand
So he's
here
definitely gonna bring the
asking to be your
military
vice
stuff up
president
to
with
force it on
extraordinary
Walz.
gratitude for this country, for the American dream that made it possible for me to live my dreams. And most importantly, I know that a lot of you are worried about the chaos in the world and the feeling that the American dream is unattainable. I want to try to convince you tonight over the next 90 minutes that if we get better leadership in the White House, if we get Donald Trump back in the White House, the American dream is going to be attainable once again. Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100
Nate said when he was
billion
playing football, tampon
in
break would've
unfrozen
gone a long
assets
way.
Thanks to the Kamala Harris administration.
Vance is
what do they use
gone
that money
with
for?
this.
They use it to
What
buy
color is
weapons
that?
that they're
Is
now
that
launching
violet,
against our
mauve?
allies.
Is that mauve?
And God forbid, potentially
What is
launching
that?
against the United
A
States
rose?
as well. Donald Trump
The tie?
recognized
Yeah,
that
the
for
tie.
people
Well,
to
it's an
fear the
interesting
United
choice.
States,
You
you
don't see
needed peace through
politicians-
strength. They needed to
They're going with
recognize
muted
that if they
versions.
got
He
out of
said, "Give me-
line,
give me a
the United
pussy
States
colored
global
tie."
leadership
Yeah,
would
they're going
put
with- they're
stability
both
and peace
going with
back
these
in
muted
the world.
versions. It's
Now,
interesting.
you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their
That-
country
that
safe.
might win me
and
over.
we should
I'm
support
really
our
focused
allies
on these
wherever they are
ties
when they're
now.
fighting the bad
That's gonna
guys.
help.
I
You're
think
lost
that's
in
the
his
right
eyes
approach to
like
take with
Trump.
the Israel question.
Thank you, Senator. Governor Walz, do you care to respond to any
Walz,
of the allegations?
what about all the
Well, look, Donald
balls?
Trump was in office. We'll sometimes hear
Grab that
revision of
tie like a
history, but
pussy,
when Donald
says
Trump was
Forrest
in
Manning.
office, it was Donald Trump who we had a
That's how he knows
coalition of
Walz
nations
won't touch him, 'cause
that
it
had
looks-
boxed
it's not a
Iran's
butthole.
nuclear program in, the inability to advance it. Donald
Burgundy,
Trump pulled
says
that
Denver.
program
Neon
and put
burgundy.
nothing else in its place.
Neon
So
burgundy?
Iran is closer to a nuclear
Oh, yeah.
weapon than they were
That's
before.
You know what?
Ron
It's
Bur-
caught our
that's Ron
attention, though.
Burgundy,
Political
Ron
leadership.
Burgundy had a
And when
late
Iran
night rock
shot
show.
down an American aircraft in
Neon
international
burgundy.
airspace,
That is an
Donald
interesting
Trump
choice of
tweeted,
color. You're
because
right.
that's the standard diplomacy of Donald Trump. And when Iranian
Ron
missiles
Burgundy.
did fall near U.S. troops and they received
Doesn't he look
traumatic
like he's
brain
trying
injuries,
too hard?
Donald
Vance
Trump
looks like he's at
wrote
ease.
it off as headaches. Look, our allies understand that Donald Trump is fickle. He will go to
Fickle.
whoever has the most flattery or where it makes sense to him. Steady leadership like you witnessed today, like you witnessed in April. Both Iranian attacks were
What we're
repelled.
watching
Our
really, I
coalition's
think, in
strong,
both
and we
of these
need
debates,
the steady leadership that Kamala Harris is
Is
providing.
this contrast in
Senator
style?
Vance,
Yep.
the U.S. did
Rehearse
have a
theatrics
diplomatic deal
versus
with Iran to
authenticity.
temporarily pause parts of its nuclear
Yeah.
program, and
I mean,
President
that-
Trump
that-
did
it's-
exit that
that's
So
the
deal.
style
he's
difference.
actually coming off a lot like
recently
Kamala to me,
said,
and
just
the-
5 days
Vance
ago,
and Trump
the U.S.
are
must now make
internet
a
age.
diplomatic deal with Iran
You
because
know,
the
the Democrats, I
consequences
think, are losing that
impossible.
part of the
Did he make a mistake?
communication
You have
battle
1
right
minute.
now.
Well, first of all, Margaret,
They're dorks on
diplomacy
the
is not a
internet.
dirty word, but I
Yeah.
think that's something that Governor Walz just said is quite extraordinary. You yourself just said Iran is as close to a nuclear weapon today as they have ever been. And Governor Walz, you blame
Look
Donald
at-
Trump,
look at him.
who has been the vice president for the last 3.5 years, and the answer is your running mate, not
Is
mine.
he constipated?
Donald Trump consistently
a-
made the world more
He's
secure.
cupping
Now we
his-
talk about
his balls
what-
right
the-
now.
the-
I
the
think
He looks
that's
like
what
he's
he's
about
cupping
to,
his-
like he's trying to
Right
look like
now,
he's crying
and
when
you
he's cupping
can't
his balls.
Ignore October the
Yeah,
7th,
this is
which
how
I
he
appreciate Governor
stands
Walz
when
bringing
his-
up. But
when his
when did
mistress is
Iran and
whipping him.
Hamas and their proxies attack Israel?
Yes, his
It
mister.
was during
It was
the
misters.
administration of Kamala Harris. So
eyebrows.
Governor Walz can criticize Donald Trump's tweets.
I mean, I
but
think that's the
effective,
face he
smart
makes when he's looking at his
diplomacy
son
and peace
5 minutes
through
before he
strength
beats the
is
shit
how
out of
you
him.
bring stability
You know,
back to a very broken
speculating,
world.
obviously.
Donald Trump has already done it once before. Ask yourself at home, when was the last time, I'm 40 years old, when was the last time that an American president didn't have a major conflict break out? The
Now,
only
he looks
answer
like
is
he's
during the
got a
4 years
butt
that Donald
plug
Trump
in,
was
Walz
president.
does. He's not relaxed.
Gentlemen,
You're
we
right,
have a lot
Forrest
to
Mom.
get to. Nora?
Margaret, thank you.
He's wearing the
Let's
same
turn
color
out to
ties
Hurricane
as her
Helene.
jacket,
The storm
right?
could become one of the deadliest on
Oh,
record.
they must have
More than
coordinated.
They did. They're
100,
banging.
60 people
what are you
are
wearing
dead,
today?
And hundreds more are missing. Scientists say
What are you
climate
wearing?
change
See how
makes
far
these
away you think they are.
hurricanes larger,
Oh, good climate
stronger,
change. It's-
and more deadly because of the historic rainfall.
They look far away, but they're
Senator
not.
Vance, according to CBS News polling, 7 in 10 Americans and more than 60% of Republicans under the age of 45 favor the U.S. taking steps to try and reduce climate change. Senator,
No.
what responsibility
Nobody gives a
would
shit
the
about
Trump
climate
administration
change.
have to try and reduce the impact
Vance is- yeah, he was
of
born.
climate
He's
change?
40.
I'll give you 2 minutes.
Sure. So first of all, let's start with the hurricane because it's an unbelievable, unspeakable human tragedy. I just saw today actually a photograph of 2 grandparents on a roof with a 6-year-old child, and it was the last photograph ever taken of them because the roof collapsed and those innocent people lost their lives. And I'm sure Governor Walz joins me in saying our hearts go out to those innocent people, our prayers go out to them.
Walz is like,
and
"Don't
we
speak
want
for
as
me."
robust and aggressive as a federal response as we can get to save as many lives as possible, and then of course
words in my
afterwards
mouth.
to help the people in those communities rebuild. I mean, these are communities that I
wiener in my
love. Some of them I know
mouth.
very
Don't put words in
personally
the only thing
in
you put in my
Appalachia,
mouth.
all
The only thing
across
you
the
put in my mouth
Southeast.
are wieners.
They need their government to do their job, and I commit that when Donald Trump is president again, the government will put the citizens of this country first when they suffer from a disaster. Now, Nora, you asked about climate change. I think this is a
I hope he
very
accuses
important
the
issue. Look,
Haitians
a
of
lot of
causing
people
the
are
hurricane.
justifiably worried about all these crazy weather patterns. I think it's important for us, first of
Yeah.
all, to say Donald Trump and I support clean air, clean water. We want the environment to be cleaner and safer. But one of the things that I've
Yeah,
noticed, some
based
of our
on climate
Democratic
change,
friends
shouldn't
talking
Florida
a
be
lot
underwater
about
since
is a
2005,
concern about
says
carbon
Stoner.
emissions. This idea that carbon emissions drives all of the climate change. Well, let's just say that's true, just for the sake of argument, so we're not arguing about weird science. Let's just say that's true.
Oh, the movie?
Well, if you believe
Wait,
that, what
yeah,
would you
no.
what would you want to do?
a great
The answer
movie.
is that you'd want to reshore as much American manufacturing as possible, and you'd want to produce as much energy as possible in the United States of America because we're the cleanest economy in the entire world. What have Kamala Harris's policies actually led to? More energy production in China, more manufacturing
He's doing the same thing
overseas,
Kamala did where he's
more
acting
doing
like he's
business in
writing
some of the
things down.
dirtiest
He's not
parts
writing
of the
anything
entire
down
world. And
because
when
his
I say that, I mean
responses are
the amount of carbon emissions
very
they're doing
scripted.
per unit of economic output. So if we actually care about getting cleaner air and cleaner water, the best thing to do is to double down and invest in American workers and the American people. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris has done exactly the opposite.
Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz, you have
Kamala
2 minutes to
Harris.
respond.
Well, we got close to an agreement because all those things are happening. Look, first of all, it is a horrific tragedy with this hurricane, and my heart goes out to the folks that are down there in contact with the governors. I serve as co-chair of the Council of Governors as we work together on these emergency managements. Governors know no partisanship. They work together to all of the governors and the emergency responders are on the ground. Those happen on the front end. The federal government comes in, makes sure they're there to that we recover, but we're still in that phase where we need to make sure that they're staying there, staying
he's a
focused.
different
Now,
guy,
look, coming
Wall
back to the
says,
climate
than when he's in
change issue,
these
there's no doubt this thing roared onto the
stage
scene faster
opt,
and stronger than anything we've seen. Senator Vance
commercial
has said
ads
that there's a
and,
climate
photo
problem. in the past.
shoots he
Donald
does.
Trump called it a hoax and then joked that these things would make more beachfront property to be able
Yeah,
to
Denver
invest
says
in.
Walz's face
What
says
we've
he's got
seen
too many
out of the
tucked
Harris,
tampons on board. You might be
administration
right
now,
about
the
that.
Biden-Harris administration, is we've seen this investment. We've seen massive
You
investments. the
overestimated what he
biggest
could put in there.
Global history that we've seen in the Inflation Reduction Act has created jobs all across the
tampons
country.
in my mouth
2000 in
or wieners?
Jeffersonville,
He's
Ohio,
drowning in dicks, says
taking
Forrest
the EV
Mommy.
technology that we invented and making it here. 200,000 jobs across the country. The largest solar manufacturing plant in North America sits in Minnesota. But my farmers know climate change is real.
His
They've seen
farmers.
500-year droughts,
yeah? They're his
500-year
farmers,
floods
huh?
back to back.
They work
But what
for
they're
me.
doing is adapting, and this has allowed them to tell me,
It's a
look, I
tampon
harvest
farm.
corn, I harvest soybean, and I harvest wind. We are producing more natural gas and more oil at any time than we ever have.
Do you think
We're
his
also
son is at home
producing more
crying because of how
clean
proud
energy.
of him he is?
So the
That's my daddy!
solution for
Sorry, I
us
shouldn't
is
make
to
fun of him.
continue to move forward, that climate change is real.
I feel sorry
Reducing
for
our
his son. I
impact
think he's
is
abused
absolutely
by this
critical.
guy.
But this is not a false choice.
I think, whatever,
You
it's
can
fun.
do that
I
at
mean,
the same
I don't-
time you're
I'm not-
creating the jobs that we're seeing
don't
all
care.
across
Mean-spirited.
the country.
No,
That's
I don't
exactly
care
what this
what the-
I think it's,
administration has
you know,
done.
whatever. He's
We are
adorable.
seeing
I
us
think the kid
becoming
was
an
adorable,
energy
honestly.
superpower for the future,
It is
not
adorable.
just
I think we
the
could
current. And
adopt
that's
him.
what absolutely
not gonna
makes
judge
sense. And then
that
we start
kid, you know what I
thinking
mean?
about
I'm judging his
how do
dad.
we mitigate
But also,
these
I
disasters.
love.
Thank you. Senator, I want to give
retarded.
you an
Make it
opportunity to respond there. The governor
do.
mentioned that President Trump has
do.
called climate change a hoax. Do you agree?
Well, look, what the president has said is that if the
His sentiments-
Democrats,
yeah.
in
Oh,
particular
yeah, 'cause
Kamala
he
Harris
visited
and her
China,
leadership,
like,
if they
more than
really
Bernie
believe
Sanders
that
did,
climate
Nate.
change is
Yeah.
serious, what they would be doing
Like
is
the-
more
the bag
manufacturing
boy
and
at the
more
Kroger
energy
I go
production
to,
in the United
you know.
States of America, and that's
You
not
love
what
him.
they're
You-
doing.
He's
retarded,
like-
but he-
Clearly,
we-
Kamala
dude,
Harris
it's
herself
honestly,
doesn't
we
believe her own rhetoric
have a
on
great
this. If she
relationship.
did, she would actually agree with Donald Trump's
I
energy
once
policies.
jammed the
Now,
Coin
from
Star
something
at
Governor
Publix
Walz
years
said,
and
I
years
think it's
ago, and they
important to
sent
touch
the
upon
Down
because
syndrome person
when
to
we
fix
talk
it. So
about
the
Yeah.
whole line is
I think
backing
that's a
up
slogan that
of
often
crackheads.
Democrats will
Yeah.
use
while I
here.
stand there
I'm talking,
waiting
of course, about
for
the
somebody with Down
Democratic leadership.
syndrome
And the
to
real
fix it.
issue is that if you're spending
I think they're
hundreds of
great,
millions or even
honestly.
billions of dollars of American taxpayer money on solar panels that are made in China, number one, you're going to make the economy dirtier. We should be making more of those solar panels here in the United
are in
States of
Minnesota.
America. Some of them are, Tim, but a lot of them are being made overseas in China, especially the components that go into those solar panels. So if you really want to make the environment cleaner, you've got to invest in more energy production. We haven't built a nuclear facility, I think, one in the past 40 years.
Senator.
Natural gas, we got to invest more in it.
How-
Kamala
he
Harris has
wished he
done
was
the
wearing a
opposite.
helmet,
That's
like
raised
his
energy
high school
prices and
football
also
helmet.
meant
Yeah,
that
like
we're
a
doing
Senator,
it
your
by the
old
time
time.
is
school
up.
leather one.
Governor,
Yeah,
you can respond.
right.
Yeah, that's what I like seeing where all
We're
droopy.
producing more natural gas than we ever have. There's no moratorium on that. We're producing more oil. But the folks
What
know, I know
breed
my-
of dog is
like I
Tim
said
Walz?
again,
That's right.
these are not liberal folks. These are not folks that are Green New Deal folks. These are
Smash
farmers
that like
have been
button, you
drought
filthy
one
animals,
year,
says Stoner.
massive flooding the next year. They understand that it makes sense.
Yeah, the
Look,
Braves are
our
getting their
number
ass
one
kicked. You're
export
right.
cannot be topsoil from erosion from these massive storms. We saw it in Minnesota this summer. and thinking about how do we respond to that, we're thinking ahead on this. And what Kamala Harris has been able to do in Minnesota,
Tampons. We plug
we're
them with
starting to
tampons.
weatherproof some of these things.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
infrastructure
That's how you
law
fill
that
the
was
Tampons
ozone.
soak up
allows us to
everything.
think about mitigation in the future.
Yeah.
How do we
Let's-
make
let's
sure that
make
we're
these
protecting by
companies
burying
stand
our
up to their
power lines? How do we
claim
make sure
of how much
that
they
we're
can
protecting
absorb.
lakefronts
We're
and things
gonna
that we're
drop a
seeing
bunch of
more and more
tampons
of?
in North
But to call
Carolina
it a
and soak
hoax
up all the
and
water.
to take the oil company executives to Mar-a-Lago.
Did you see
say,
the
"Give
way
me money
Vance
for my
looked at the
campaign,
moderator like, are
and
you
I'll
going to
let
say
do whatever
something?
you want." We can be smarter about that, and an all-above energy policy is exactly what she's doing, creating those jobs right here.
Governor, your time is up. The overwhelming consensus
Well,
among
yeah, he
scientists
stopped
is that
talking.
the Earth's climate is warming at an unprecedented rate. Margaret?
Oh, thank you
Laura.
for that.
We're going to turn
Thank you
now
for that.
to
But
immigration.
you can't even measure
Crisis
that.
at the U.S.-Mexico
dumb bitch.
border consistently ranks as one of the top issues for American voters. Senator Vance, your campaign is pledging to carry out the largest mass deportation
He
plan
is. I think
in
he's
American
flirting with her
history,
with that tie.
and to use the U.S. military to do so.
They certainly
Could you be more
coordinated.
specific about exactly how this will work?
She's wearing a similar
For
colored
example,
blazer to his
would you deport
tie.
parents who have entered the
think she-
U.S.
yeah,
illegally
she looks proper,
and
but I think-
separate them from any of
I
their
think freaking
children
the
who
sheets.
were born on U.S. soil? You have 2 minutes.
So first of all, Margaret, before we talk about deportations, we have to stop the bleeding. We have a historic immigration crisis because Kamala Harris started.
That was a
and
cho-
said
he
that she
chose
wanted
that
to
on purpose
undo
for the
all of Donald
association, I
Trump's
think.
Border policies. 94 executive orders suspending deportations.
Tim, you know how to stop the bleeding.
decriminalizing
Yeah, we
illegal
shoved
aliens,
tampons in the border. Stop
massively
that bleeding.
increasing the asylum fraud that exists in our system. That has opened the floodgates. And what it's meant is that a lot of
He's
fentanyl
using
is
all
coming
this
into our country. I had a mother who struggled with opioid addiction and has gotten clean. I don't want people who are struggling
Wallace
with
looks like he's not
addiction
listening
to
now.
be deprived of their second chance because Kamala Harris let in fentanyl into our communities at record levels. So you've got to stop
Tampon
the
border
bleeding.
policy.
You've got to re-implement Donald Trump's border policies, build the wall, re-implement deportations. And that gets me to your point, Margaret, about what do we actually do? So we've got 20, 25 million illegal aliens who are here in the country.
Even his
What do we do with
podium
them?
is
I
a
think
little
the first thing that
pinkish.
we do is we
now
start
I'm
with the criminal
wondering if
migrants.
it's just
About a
are the
million of
hues
those
off,
people
the
have
color
committed
hues
some
off
form
on
of
this
crime in
particular
addition to
broadcast,
crossing
you
the
know what
border
I'm saying?
illegally.
Now
I think
I'm
you
starting to
start with
wonder
deportations
if the
on
colors
those
have been
folks. And then I think you make it harder for illegal
Manipulated,
aliens to
yeah.
undercut the wages of
ties a
American
deep fake.
workers. A lot of
It's a-
people
yeah,
will
these are
go
cheap
home
fakes.
if they can't
Cheap
work
fake
for
ties.
less than minimum wage in our own country. And by the way, that'll be really
That one
good for our
didn't
workers
stick.
who just want to earn
No one says
a
cheap
fair
fake
wage for
anymore.
doing
No,
a
that was
good
very
job.
short-lived
I like when
one.
they, I like when they put the
You asked
term
about
out and
family
they've got
separation.
and they bring
Right
an
now,
expert
in
on
this
to
country,
define it. So,
Margaret, we have
Brad, why don't you tell me what
320,000
exactly
children
is
that
a
the
cheap
Department of
fake?
Homeland Security
It's all
has
the things
effectively
the right
lost.
does.
Some of them have been sex
Oh,
trafficked.
once
Some of
again.
them hopefully are at homes with their families. Some of them
Oh,
have
they
been
do
used
travel
as
in
drug
these
trafficking
terms.
mules. The real family separation policy in
hate
this
it
country is
so much
unfortunately
when they
Kamala
do that.
Harris's wide open southern border. And I'd ask my
If
fellow
he doesn't bring
Americans
up
to remember
funding
when she came
NGOs,
into
then he's
office,
in on it.
She said she was going to do this. Real leadership would be saying, you know what, I screwed up. We're going to go back to Donald Trump's border policies. I wish that she would do that. It
Deport
would
the
be good for
NGO
all
and
of us.
nonprofit that are being paid to
Governor,
bring them here.
Do you care to respond to any of those specific allegations, including that the vice president is, quote, letting in fentanyl and using kids as drug mules, among
What is he
other
doing with
things
his ear?
regarding children?
The drug mule is not true, but I will say about this, about the fentanyl, because this is a crisis of this,
The
the
drug
opioid
mule's not
crisis.
true. What are
And
you
the good news
talking
on this
about?
is the last
Yeah,
12 months
well,
saw
what about
the
the
largest
horse sperm?
decrease in
Please,
opioid
yeah,
deaths in our
yeah,
nation's
yeah,
history.
come on.
30% decrease
Drug
in
mules,
violence,
horse
but there's
sperm.
still more
Just
work to
please
do.
make a
But
reference
let's go
to that
back
at
this on
least.
immigration. Kamala Harris was the Attorney General of the largest state and a border state in California. She's the only person
Knights
in this
Templar.
race
And
who
she-
prosecuted transnational gangs for human trafficking and drug interventions. But look, we all want to solve this. Most of us
She
want
put a
to
lot of
solve
black
this,
people in jail. You're
and
saying,
that is
Tim,
the United States
for low-level
Congress.
drug
That's the
charges.
Border Patrol agents. That's the Chamber of Commerce. That's most Americans out here. That's why we had the fairest and the toughest bill on immigration that this nation's seen. It was crafted by a conservative senator from Oklahoma, James Langford. I know him. He's super conservative,
know?
but he's a man
Super
of
cool.
principle.
I
Wants
like
to get
him.
it done.
He's got my
Democrats
brand
and
of
Republicans
tampons in
worked
his
on this
ass.
piece of
And his dick
legislation.
hole.
The Border Patrol said, this is what we need in here. These are the experts. And the Chamber of Commerce and the Wall Street Journal said, pass this thing. Kamala Harris helped get there. 1,500 new border agents. Detection for drugs. DOJ money to speed
Dude,
up.
this dude's
these,
almost as bad as
the
Kamala. He's a
adjudications
little
on this,
better than
just
her,
what
but
America
he's
wants.
just as
But
flustered.
as soon as I was getting ready to pass and actually tackle
think
this,
it's appealing
Donald
to
Trump
their
said
crowd.
no.
It must
Told
be,
them to
man.
vote against
To be a
it
whiny bitch,
because
it's
it
like,
gives him a
it is.
campaign
maybe.
issue. It gives him to.
This is the new masculinity,
If we
Ian,
actually did
this
some
guy.
of these things, and they need to be done
Him and
by
Doug
the
Emhoff.
legislature. You can't just do this through the executive branch. So look, we have the options to do this. Donald Trump
got
had 4
two
years.
runners on with two
He had
outs
4
for
years
anybody
to
who
do
cares.
this, and he promised you, America, how easy it would be. I'll build you a big, beautiful wall, and Mexico will pay for it. Less than 2% of that wall got built, and Mexico didn't pay
He's
a
trying
dime.
to restrain
But
his
here we are
anger.
again, 9 years after he came down that escalator,
Waltz.
dehumanizing.
Yeah, he's trying to make it look
people
like he's
and
restraining
telling
his
them what he
anger.
was
Look at his
going to do.
eyes. He
As
looks
far
like
as the
he's on
deportation
cocaine to
plan,
me
At
with his
one
eyes.
point, Senator Vance said it was so unworkable to be laughable. So that's where we're at. Pass the bill, she'll sign it.
Governor, your time
Nate
is up.
says, with
Senator,
joy,
the
though, she'll
question
joyfully
was, will you
keep people in
separate
jail to
parents from
fight
their children,
fires made of-
even if their
of
kids
fun?
are U.S. citizens? You have 1 minute.
Yeah.
Margaret, my point is that we already have massive child separations thanks to Kamala Harris's open border. And I didn't
And
accuse Kamala Harris of
child
inviting
separation
drug
thing
mules. I
started a
said that she
long
enabled
time
the
ago,
Mexican
before
drug
Trump,
cartels
started with
to
Obama.
operate freely in this country.
They
Yeah,
just
and
lie
it just
about all
leads to
this.
child
drug
divorce,
mules, and it is a
you know?
disgrace, and it has to
First to
stop.
separate,
Look, I think what Tim said just
then get
doesn't
divorced,
pass
and
the
child
smell
marriage
test. For
is just at
3
an all-time
years,
low.
Kamala Harris went out
child marriage?
bragging that
Yeah.
she was going to
Well, it's
undo
child
Donald Trump's
separation.
border policy. She did exactly that. We had a record number of illegal crossings. We had a record number of fentanyl coming into our country. And now that she's running for president, or a few months before, she says that somehow she got religion and cared a lot about a piece of legislation. The only thing
lost
that she
cup in his
did when she
balls.
became the
That's what
vice
he's
president, when
doing.
she became the appointed border czar, was to undo 94 Donald Trump executive actions that opened the border. This problem is leading to massive problems in the United States of America. Parents who can't afford health care, schools that are overwhelmed. It's got to stop, and it will when Donald Trump is president again.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, what about our CBS News polling, which does
what
show
about-
that a
oh, you're
majority
polling.
of Americans, more than 50%, support mass deportations?
Look,
Look,
we fixed
look,
this
when you-
issue
when you
with a bill
run
that
the
is
nickel
necessary, but
defense
the issue on this is
and
what
you're
happens
trying to
when you
score
don't
a
wanna solve
basket
it.
in the
You
end
demonize
zone.
it. And we saw this, and Senator Vance, and it surprises me on this, talking about and saying, I will create stories to bring attention to this. That vilified a large number of people who were here legally in the community of Springfield. The Republican governor said, it's not true, don't do it. There's consequences for this. There's consequences. We could come together. Senator Langford
He has
did
the
it.
facial
We could come together
expression
and solve
of
this if we didn't let Donald Trump continue to
a
make it an issue.
frustrated gay
And the
man.
consequences in Springfield were the governor had to send
Not
state
even,
law
I shouldn't say
enforcement
that.
to escort kindergartners to school.
Of a
I
low,
believe Senator
of a
Vance
beta.
wants to solve
Yeah,
this.
so it's
Oh,
different.
by
There's a lot
standing
of
with
there's a lot
Donald
of
Trump
manly
and
gay
not
dudes.
working
I
together to
shouldn't.
find a solution.
No, he's
it becomes a talking
absolutely
point,
just-
and when
no,
it becomes a
he's
talking point like
absolutely
this,
just a
we
beta.
dehumanize
Yeah,
and villainize
it's
other
a
human
But he
beings.
goes
pleading-
after powerful positions,
Governor,
right?
Governor, your time is
So
up.
he
Senator, I'll
uses
give you
it.
1
He's
minute, but
obviously
let me
using.
just
This is not.
ask you
It's
the
just
question
not
first.
authentic.
The
Not at
governor
all.
has made
Why
the
is he-
point, and
this
I
is a
think
guy
as a
who
sitting
eventually
lawmaker,
became
you
the
know
governor
that
of
Congress
a
controls the
state.
purse strings
That's pretty-
and any
I mean,
funding. So you
that's a
have
pretty big
said
accomplishment, wouldn't
repeatedly
you say?
that Donald Trump would,
Yeah.
through executive
Right?
action,
Yeah, he did a good job
solve
there.
this.
I'm just
Do
saying,
you
it's-
I'm
disagree
sure it's rigged.
The
somehow.
percentage
that
of it
Congress
happening,
controls the purse strings
you know,
and
pretty
would
low.
need to support
He's I
many
think
of
he's
the
probably very
changes that you would
compromised. It's
actually want
probably
to
Well, yeah.
part of
implement.
why he
So
got to
that's
win.
what I
First
mean.
of
Is
all,
he's-
the gross
he's-
majority
this
of
is
what we need
his
to do at the
character
southern
that
border
he's
is just
used to
empowering
get
law
that far.
enforcement to do their job. I've been to the southern border. more
Yeah,
than our
and they-
borders
it's
are.
just
Kamala
interesting
Harris
they
has been.
brand this as
And
the
it's
new
actually
masculinity,
heartbreaking
this
because
type
the
of
Border
person.
Patrol agents, they just want to be empowered to
Takes
do their
money
job.
and
Of
knowing
course,
people,
additional
says
resources
Forsman.
would
That's
help,
also true,
but most
yeah.
of
You know,
this
the
is
thing
about
is,
the president
maybe
and the
I'm-
vice
maybe I'm
president
being,
empowering
overly
our law
optimistic, but I
enforcement to
really
say,
think
if you try to come across
that
the border
in
illegally,
2025,
you've got to stay
we're
in
gonna get to a
Mexico, you've
place
got to
where
go
most
back through
people are
proper
just gonna
channels.
stop
Now,
listening
Governor
to
Walz
legacy media.
brought up the community of
It's
Springfield,
only gonna
and he's
be,
very
I don't
worried
know,
about
the
things that I
30%
said in
hardcore
Springfield. Look,
wokies.
in Springfield,
mean,
Ohio, and
it's-
in communities all across this
Just
country,
everyone's just
you've
laughing.
got
Legacy media is
schools
what
that are
destroys the
overwhelmed. You've got
country. It might be
hospitals
that
are
and
overwhelmed.
news literacy
You've got
programs
housing
and,
that is totally
public school
unaffordable
system.
because we brought in millions of illegal immigrants
says
to
trust
compete with
legacy media.
Americans
That's the news-
for
that's the
scarce
news
homes.
literacy
The people
program.
that I'm
Trust
most
legacy
worried about
media.
in Springfield, Ohio, are the American citizens who have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's open border. It is a disgrace, Tim. And I actually think, I agree with you. I think you want to solve this problem, but I don't think that Kamala Harris does.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, you have 1 minute to respond.
Yeah, well, it is law enforcement that asked for the bill. They helped craft it. They're the ones that supported it. That's because they know we need to do this. Look, this issue issue of continuing to bring this up, of not dealing with it, of blaming migrants for everything. On housing, we could talk a little bit about Wall Street speculators buying up housing and making them less affordable, but it becomes a blame. Look, this bill also gives
Dude,
the money
I can't even
necessary
take- like,
to
looking at
adjudicate.
his face
I
right
agree.
now,
It
it's
should
just
not
like-
take 7 years for an asylum claim to be done. This bill gets it done in 90 days. Then you start
If somebody
to make a
was
difference
talking
in
to
this,
me like
and
that
you
in
start to
person, I would be
adhere to
like,
what
dude,
we
you gotta
know,
just
American
stop
principles.
with that.
I don't talk about
You
my
need to
faith
just take a
lie,
breath.
But Matthew 25:40
I need to-
talks about to the least amongst us you do
God.
unto me. I think that's true of most Americans.
Is this somebody
They
who is
simply want order to
rallying
it.
a football
This bill
team who's
does it.
down by
It's funded.
14 at
It's supported by
halftime
the people who
like
do it,
this?
and it lets us keep our dignity.
Is that a face that
about how
that
we
looks like
treat
a
other
leader?
people.
Thank
No,
you, Governor. And
not
just
at
to
all.
clarify for
I mean,
our
this is a
viewers,
guy
Springfield,
Greg.
Ohio does have a
If
large
Kamala
number
becomes
of
president,
Haitian migrants
that's the
who have
guy
legal
who is
status,
second in charge.
temporary protected
Well,
status.
Right.
Nora?
but
Thank you.
The
Senator,
dude
we have
loves
so
visiting
much to get
China.
to.
Margaret,
Thank
I
you,
think it's
Nora.
important
We're going to
because
turn out of the
More than Bernie
economy.
Sanders,
Thank
like
you.
30
the
sometimes.
rules were that
The
you guys
economy,
weren't going to
we're-
fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called
I'm
the
not a
CBP
fan
One
of
app,
Vance.
where you
Vance
can
is
go
much
on
better
as
at
an
this
illegal
than Walz
migrant,
does,
apply for
is that.
asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at
Yeah,
the
Bible
wave
verses
of
really get
a
it down,
Kamala
yeah.
Harris open border wall.
Yeah, where's it talking about
That
the
is
butt
not a person
tampons in the
coming in
Bible,
applying
Walz?
for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That
Thank
is
you,
the
Senator.
facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret.
Thank
by
you,
our
Thank you,
Senator.
Senator, for
leadership.
describing the legal
And
process.
those
Although
laws-
Thank
we
you,
have so
Senator.
much to
Fact
get
check
to,
false,
Senator.
Senator.
We have
Those laws
so
have been on
much.
the books since 1990.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
For
We
mansplaining
wanna
it
have
to
That has
me.
not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris.
Oh, they muted his mic. Did you
Gentlemen,
see
you-
that?
Yep.
So
The
she
audience
reached
can't
over and
hear you
muted his
because
mic.
your mics are cut. We have so much we want to get to. Thank you for explaining the
They
legal
cut his
process.
mic.
Oh my
Nora.
gosh.
Thank you, Margaret. The economy is a top concern for
bitch.
voters. Each of your
Yeah,
campaigns has
seriously.
Look
released
at her.
an economic
She
plan,
looks
so
like-
let's talk about the specifics. Governor Walz, Vice President Harris
she looks
unveiled
like
a plan that includes
she's
billions in
a
tax credits
handful.
for manufacturing,
Yes, she
housing,
does.
and a renewed child tax credit. The Wharton School says your
she's up
proposals
real
will
early.
increase the nation's deficit
She's-
by
5:30 a.m.
$1.2
5:30 a.m.
trillion
At least.
Yeah, and
How would
she,
you
if
pay
you're
for
not
that
up
without
before her,
ballooning the deficit? Governor, I'll give you
you're
two
not
minutes.
going to last.
You're
in
a
that
lazy
relationship.
son of a
You're a
bitch.
lazy
Harris and I
piece
do
of
believe
shit.
in the middle
She's like,
class
oh,
because that's
well,
what
he's
we
not
come
doing
from.
anything, yeah.
We both
She's
grew up in that. We
jogging.
understand. So those of you out there
She's,
listening
you know,
tonight,
got
you're
all-
doing a lot of
Spreadsheets
stuff back
going.
and
She's got a
forth, and it's good.
giant,
It's healthy. That's what
fluffy
this is supposed to
Pomeranian
happen.
dog
You
that
should
she
be
takes
listening.
out
How's this
on
gonna
for a
impact
jog with
me?
her.
The bold
She
forward
uses the
plan
hard
that
R,
Kamala
says
Harris
Force
put,
Mommy.
out there
Yeah.
is one is talking about this housing
Just when
issue.
she's
got
jogging
fluffy
by
One
the
thing
park.
is there's 3 million new houses proposed under this plan with down payment assistance on the front end to get you in a house. A house is
She
much
drinks everything
more
out of a
than just an
martini glass.
asset to be traded somewhere.
Yeah.
It's foundational to where you're at.
And
then making sure that the things you buy every day,
Pepto-Bismol.
whether they be
Even
prescription drugs
Pepto-Bismol,
or
dude.
other things, that there's fairness in that. Look, the
She got the girl
$35
boss suit.
insulin is a good thing.
Senator Light.
Takes
It
a
looks
couple
good on her.
Bismol,
It
some
does look good
vodka.
on her.
They were
Shake
charging
it up.
$800 before
She's
this
the
law went
best
into
dressed
effect.
of this group.
As far as the housing goes, I've seen it in Minnesota. 12%
She's an
more houses
attractive
in
woman.
Minneapolis. Prices went down on rent 4%. It's working. And then making sure tax
Maybe we
cuts
can,
go to the
get her on
middle
the
class.
show. You think she'd come on and
$6,000
talk to
child tax credit. We have one in
I don't know,
Minnesota.
man.
Reduces
Maybe. We can always
childhood
DM her.
poverty by a third. We save
be like,
money in
"Hey,
the
I'm
long
a
run,
cuck
and
for
we do
Harris,"
the right thing
and-
for families. And then getting
White
businesses
cooks
off the
for
ground.
Harris.
The law as it stands right now is $5,000 tax credit
just
for
need
small
a woman
business,
to just
increasing that
treat
to
me like shit.
50,000.
Could you
Now,
be
this is a
that?
philosophical
She'd be like,
difference
"Maybe."
between us. Donald Trump made a promise, and I'll give you this. He kept it. He took folks
kept
from
it.
Mar-a-Lago, said, "You're rich as hell, I'm going to give you a tax cut." He gave the tax cut
This-
that predominantly went to the top class.
way that
What
he
happened
speaks,
there
this
was
caricature
an
of a
$8 trillion
plain-spoken person
increase
is
in the
over the
national debt,
top.
the largest
It's
ever.
crazy.
Now he's proposing
It's so
a
Disney-fied.
20%
It really
consumption
is.
or
It
sales
really
tax
is
on
fucking-
everything we bring in.
I don't believe
Everyone agrees,
any
including
of his
businesses, it would
persona.
be destabilizing it. It would increase inflation and potentially lead to a recession. Look, this is simple for you. Where are we going? Kamala Harris has said to do the things she wants to do. We'll just ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share. When you do that, our system works best, more people are participating in it, and folks have the things that they need.
Senator, I want to give you a moment to
Force
respond
Mommy
on that. But
says she
similarly,
knows a
the Wharton
lifelong
School has
dim,
done
an older lady
analysis
from
of the Trump
Minneapolis
plan
who's
and says
pissed
it
about
would
the
increase the
immigration
nation's
and
deficit
everything
by
there.
$5.8 trillion.
But they're never going to tell
My
you that kind of
question
stuff
is
in
the
the
same
media.
for you. How do you pay for all that without ballooning the deficit? I'll give you 2
Circus
minutes.
without a tent.
Well, first of all,
neither will be in
you're gonna
charge
hear
of
a
anything
lot
if
from
elected
Tim Walz
selected.
this evening,
So
and you
that's
just heard it in
correct.
the
Yeah.
answer. A lot of what Kamala Harris proposes
Kamala,
to do,
I wish you would
and
say it
some of it, I'll
correctly.
be honest with you, it even sounds pretty good. Here's what
Kamala.
you won't hear is that Kamala Harris has
I'd love to
already
get Judge
done it
Joe Brown on
because
the
she's
show. He
been
won't
the
reply
vice
to me then.
president for 3.5 years. She had the opportunity to enact all of these great policies, and what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%. Drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%.
I just
Open
love
the
that
American
he's
southern border
obviously
and
not
make middle-class
taking
life
notes and
unaffordable
reacting.
for a large number of Americans.
But
If
he's
Kamala
acting
Harris
like he's
has such
writing all
great
this
plans
stuff.
for how to
Walls.
address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them
Well,
now, not when asking for a promotion.
had a
for
vein
the
to the
job
penis I
the
just
American
drew.
people gave her 3.5 years ago, and the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about how much you can trust her actual plans. Now, Donald Trump's economic plan is not just a
I
plan,
just don't
but it's
like
also
Tim
a
Walz
record.
to me.
A lot of
he's
those same
just-
economists attack Donald Trump's
such
plans,
a
and they
phony-
have PhDs, but they don't
he
have
comes
common
off
sense,
as
and they don't have wisdom.
either
Because
gay
Donald Trump's economic policies
or a
to
guy,
deliver
maybe
the
both, who
highest
pretends to
take-home
be a
pay in
feminist because
generation
he
in this
thinks he can
country,
corner women
1.5%
whose guard is let
inflation,
down.
and
You know what I'm
two,
talking about,
decent
Ian? We need some
security
people like
all
that in
over
the
the
theater.
world. So when people
Absolutely.
say that Donald Trump's economic plan doesn't make sense, I
yeah,
say
absolutely.
look
He comes
at the
across as
record.
harmless,
He delivered rising
but he's also
take-home
the
pay for
guy
American workers.
who
Now,
later
Tim
you find
admirably
out,
admits that
you know,
they want
tried to
undo
grope
the Trump
several
tax
women at
cuts.
the
But if you
theater.
look at
Exactly.
what was so different about
This
Donald
harmless
Trump's tax
thing
cuts,
is a
even from
way to
previous
get
And his
close.
Republican
harmless
tax
thing was
cut
to get
plans,
in there.
is that
That's
a
right.
lot of those resources
So
went
there
to
was
giving
a
more take-home pay
video
to
that
middle
was going
class and
around
working
of,
class Americans. It was
a bunch of
passed in
Kamala staffers
2017,
shooing
and you saw
reporters
an
out of a
American
room when they
economic
started
boom
asking her
unlike we've seen
about
in a
Hurricane
generation in this
Helene
country.
relief.
That
Did
is a
you see
road
that?
that I'm proud
I
to
did
run
not.
on, and we're going to get back to that common sense wisdom so that
should
you
check
can
out that
afford to
footage.
live
It's-
the American dream
it's pretty
again. I
striking.
know
I
a lot
mean,
of you are
you know,
struggling.
a couple
I
of
know a lot
reporters
of you are
started
worried
asking her,
about
and
paying the
then
bills. It's
staff
gonna
gets
stop
up,
when Donald Trump
kicks
brings
her,
back common
kicks,
sense
you
to
know,
this country.
that's it. Thank
Governor,
you,
if you wanna
everybody.
respond
You
to
know,
that,
just
what
like they've
has
done with
Kamala
Biden.
Harris done for the middle
We've
class?
seen it
Well,
over and
Kamala
over.
Harris's
These
day
types of
one
Well, in
was
their
Donald
defense,
Trump's
that- the
failure
money
on
and the
COVID that led to
relief
the collapse of our economy. We were already before
should go
COVID in
to
a
Ukraine and
manufacturing
Israel first
recession,
before
but 10
we
million
think
people
about
out
it.
of work,
Right.
largest percentage
But you know,
since
whenever
the Great
the
Depression.
critics,
9
whenever
million
we
jobs
say,
closed on that. That was
for
day
lack of a
one.
better
Whether
term,
it's
you
the
know,
Infrastructure
the
Act
deep
or other
state,
things
or
we
like
moved. Now you
Vivek
made a
says,
question about experts
Leviathan,
said this.
right?
I've made
Yeah.
a
The
note of this.
machine, right? Or I
Economists
think that's what he calls it,
can't
Leviathan.
be trusted. Science can't be trusted.
That's
National
an
security
example
folks
of
can't be
Leviathan at
trusted.
work.
Look, if
Right.
you're going to be
He's
president,
so Walz is
you
talking
don't
about
have all
people
the
saying
answers. Donald
Trump
believes he
saying
does.
science can't
My
be
pro
trusted.
tip of the
and all
day is
that.
this: if you need heart surgery, listen to the people at the Mayo Clinic
he's
in Rochester,
promoting-
Minnesota, not Donald Trump. And the same thing
okay,
goes
so-
with this. And I ask you out there, teachers,
Go fuck
nurses,
yourself,
truck drivers,
dude. He's gotta
whatever.
know fucking
How is
shit
it fair that
about
you're paying your taxes every
this
year
fucking
and Donald Trump
medical
hasn't paid any
science he's
federal tax
talking
in the
about?
last 15 years? And the last year as president. That's what's wrong with the system. There's a way around it, and he's bragged about that. We're just asking for fairness in it, and that's all you want.
You have a
You know,
minute.
Governor, you say trust the experts. But those same experts for 40
Right.
years said
Yeah,
that if we
right,
shipped our
Senator.
manufacturing base off to China, we'd get cheaper
He
goods.
tries to friend
They
zone
lied
his
about
way,
that.
and then he
They said
drugs
if we
the drink.
shipped our industrial base off to other
And then he's
countries, to
very
Mexico
rapey.
and elsewhere, it would make the middle class stronger. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about the idea that if we made America less self-reliant, less productive in our own nation, that it would somehow make us better off, and they were wrong about it. And for the first time in a generation, Donald Trump had the wisdom and the courage to say to that bipartisan consensus,
I don't think they're gonna
"We're
reach the
not
30
doing it
times
anymore.
saying Donald
We're
Trump."
bringing American manufacturing back. We're unleashing American energy. We're going to make more of our own stuff. And this isn't just an
Trump
economic
Make
issue.
more of our own
I've got
stuff
3
again is a
beautiful
really
little
long
kids at home,
acronym.
7,
Yeah.
4, and 2.
Trump
I
is
love them
apparently
very much, and I hope they're in bed
providing,
right now. But look,
commentary.
so
Did you
many
see
of the
that tweet?
drugs, the
That American
Oh, yeah, we
pharmaceuticals
should
that
pull
put in
that
the
up,
bodies of our
actually. That's a
children
good-
are manufactured
'cause
by
I'm gonna go
nations
to a
that hate
break
us.
here in a
This
second.
has to stop, and we're not going to stop it by listening to experts. We're going to stop it by listening to common sense wisdom, which is what Donald Trump
We're not
governed
gonna
on.
stop
Senator,
by
your
listening
time
to
is up. Governor
experts.
Walz,
Listen,
can you
listen,
address that? I mean,
that's what
voters
they
say they trust Donald Trump on the economy more. Why?
If you're listening tonight and you want billionaires to get tax cuts, you heard what the numbers were. Look,
Did we?
I'm a union
I don't
guy
think we did.
on this. I'm not a guy who wanted to ship things overseas, but I
Yeah, and
understand that. Look,
63% of the
we produce
Teamsters
soybeans
are-
and
are
corn. We
going
need to
with
have
Trump.
fair trading partners. That's something that we believe in. I
he
think
is
the thing
doing the live
that
tweet.
most concerns me on this is
So we'll hit
Donald
those at the
Trump was the
commercial
guy
break.
who created the largest trade deficit in American history with China. So the rhetoric is good. Much of what the
Stoner
senator
says
said right
Terminator
there, I'm in
Mommy is
agreement
the
with him
best.
on this.
Arvada
I watched it happen
fucked
too.
up.
I
That's
watched
where
it
she
in my
ran for
communities,
office.
and we talked about that. But we had people undercutting the right to collectively bargain. We had right to work states made it more difficult. We had companies that were willing to ship it over, and we saw people profit. Folks that are venture capital in some cases, putting money into companies that were overseas. We're in agreement that we bring those home. The issue is
you brought
Donald
up
Trump is
venture
talking about it.
capital.
Kamala Harris has a
That-
record
you're right.
250,000
Isn't
more
that one of-
manufacturing
wasn't that
jobs
Yep, it is.
just out of the IRA.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
So appreciate that. So if you
see the
notice,
way he
what
walked
Governor
over
Walz just
him?
did is he said, first of all, Donald Trump has to listen to the experts. And then when he acknowledged that the experts screwed up, he said, well, Donald Trump didn't do nearly as good of a job as the statistics
No, that's a
show
gross
that he
generalization.
did. So what Tim Walz is doing, and I honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here because you've got
I
to play
don't-
whack-a-mole.
this
You've
guy
got to
could not be a
pretend that
football
Donald Trump
coach.
didn't deliver rising
Okay,
take-home
guys.
pay,
I
which
mean,
of course he did.
you guys are getting
You've got to
walloped
pretend
out
that Donald
there.
Trump didn't
And I
deliver
don't know
lower
what to tell you.
inflation, which
It's
of
just
course
not-
he
it doesn't
did.
make any
And then you
sense, this
simultaneously
guy
got to
being
defend
a
Kamala
coaching
Harris's
people.
atrocious economic record, which has made gas,
Here I am,
groceries, and
carrying
housing
my big old
unaffordable
weapon into
for
war.
American
Gee
citizens.
golly.
I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like.
Your
to
mom's
not
a
be able
whore.
to
Just call
afford
his
the
mom a
things that you
whore.
need to afford. We can do so
Tim,
much better.
it looked
To
like
all
you-
of you watching, we can get back to an America
Look how
that's
he
affordable
wants to
again.
call his mom a
We just
dirty
got to
name.
get back to common sense economic principles.
I hope we have a conversation on health care then.
Oh, look, he
Senator
just so he
Turner.
just
Please.
dude.
Thank you, Margaret.
We
That
have a
that's
lot
what
to
he
get to
beats his
ahead,
kids. I'm
gentlemen, on
speculating.
many
The
topics,
dude,
but
Tim
right now
Walz
I wanna
beats
talk
his
about
children. Just
personal
look at the way he
qualifications.
reacts.
The vice president is
Yeah.
often the last voice the
I
president
wouldn't be
hears
surprised. I
before
mean, these are
making
people who go after
consequential
power,
decisions.
so
We want to
not
ask you
surprised when
about
any of
your
them do
leadership
fucked up
qualities.
things.
Like they create a
Governor
whole bunch of
Walz,
jobs because they have to have a team
you
of
said you
people
were in
who
Hong Kong during
are
the
keeping
deadly
Kamala
Tiananmen
at least
Square
appearing to be
protests in
sober
spring
and
of
have to hire people to
1989.
come to all these events.
But
So there's a
Minnesota
number of
Public
jobs
Radio
they
and other
create.
media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until
Magically
August
create
of
those
that
jobs, like
year.
Jack says.
Can you explain?
Yeah,
that
they manipulate the
discrepancy?
numbers, lying
Yeah,
with
well, and to
statistics.
the
too,
folks
all
out
the
there who
time.
didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come
Oh,
on.
yeah,
and I'm proud
Greg.
of that service.
And then what
I
happened
joined the
after the
National Guard at
streetlights came on?
17, worked on family farms.
You rode your
and then
bike
I
with your buddies till the
used
streetlights
GI
came
Bill
on, and then
to
what?
become a teacher,
That's it.
passionate about it, a young teacher.
I became a teacher.
My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to
cut a
travel
kid's
to
dick
China.
off.
35 years ago, be able to do that.
I have a basket
came
of the
back
first dicks
home
I cut off.
And then started a program to take young people there. We would take basketball teams, we would take baseball teams,
Take
we
them
would
to China,
take
we'd
dancers,
leave them there.
and we would
We'd
go
trick
back
them.
and
No,
forth.
but
Leave
like
them
this
there.
whole
The issue for
this
that
whole
was to
athletic
try and
jock
learn.
thing.
Now, look,
there's
my
nothing
community
about
knows who
him
I
that
am.
is athlete.
They saw where I was at. They look. I will be the first to tell you.
Sup,
I
JC?
have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can.
Poured
but
my
I've not been
semen into my
perfect.
locker
and I'm
room.
a knucklehead at times. But
Oh,
it's always been
knucklehead.
about that.
Gee golly.
Those same people elected me to Congress for 12
He's
years.
such a
And
phony.
in Congress, I was one of the most bipartisan people, working on things like farm bills that we got done, working on veterans benefits. And then the people of Minnesota were able to elect me to governor twice. So look, my commitment has
They
been
were
from the
able to.
beginning to make
Yeah.
sure that I'm there for the people, to
Yeah, of
make sure
course
that I
you're
get
the
this right. I
governor
will
of
say
Minnesota.
more than
You-
anything.
you-
Many
like I
times
said, this guy
I will
is the
talk a
embodiment
lot.
of
I will get
NPR.
caught up in the rhetoric.
Like, yeah.
But
If
being
you
there,
said
the impact it made,
ChatGPT
the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot.
create
Create a
about Congress. I
stereotype.
did the critiques
Yeah,
of this.
of-
I would
of-
make
of
the
an
case
NPR
that
was a
Donald Trump
person,
should have come
what
on
would it
one
look
those
like?
trips
Of
with
an
us.
on-the-download
I guarantee
dad
you
who's
he wouldn't
like
be,
NPR.
praising Xi Jinping
Stoner
about
says,
COVID. And I
like the movie
guarantee you he
Footloose,
wouldn't
but with
start a
dudes
trade
being
war that he ends up
dudes.
losing. So this is about.
Oh,
I
man,
should tell you,
which-
our friend Josh.
Yeah. Which Footloose, huh?
He plays Trump on the show. He's in the reboot of Footloose.
What was
Plays
that,
the drug
20?
dealer.
2012?
Yeah, so check that
Was
out.
being a good soldier or was being a good
Some
member
stories
of
about
Congress.
that.
Those are the things that I think are the
Another
values that
time.
people care about.
I loved embarrassing Josh.
Governor,
in
just
Me
public.
too.
to
I
follow
do. I
up
still
on
do it.
that, the question was, can you explain the
No, just
discrepancy?
all I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just. That's what I've said.
I mean, it's just,
So I said his
Also, I was
eyebrows
in
receded along with his
Hong Kong
hairline.
and
He says
China
that.
Yeah.
during the democracy protests went in, and from that I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you for us, mommy.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Vance, in 2016, you called your running mate Donald Trump unfit for the nation's highest office, and you said he could be America's Hitler. I know you've been asked many times, and
Oh.
you said you regret those comments
yeah.
and explained you then voted for Donald Trump in 2020. But the Washington Post reported new messages last week in which you also disparaged Trump's economic record while he was president, writing to someone in 2020, quote, Trump thoroughly failed to deliver his economic populism. You're now his running mate, and you've shifted many of your policy stances to align with his. If you become vice president, why should Americans trust that you will
he's
give
talking about the
Donald
original.
Trump the
So
advice
backhanded.
he needs to hear, and not just the advice he wants
Vince
to
does
hear?
look like he's
You
got a
have 2
makeup
minutes.
team.
Well, first of all, Margaret, because
Of course, which they all do.
and sometimes,
Yeah.
of course, I've disagreed with the president, but I've also been extremely open
Well,
about the fact that
anytime
I
you
was
go on
wrong
TV, they're
about
gonna
Donald
Yeah.
Trump.
on you.
I was
You and
wrong,
I
first
both
of
have
all,
makeup
because I
on.
believed some of the media stories that turned out to be dishonest fabrications of his record. But most importantly, Donald Trump delivered for the American people. Rising wages, rising take-home pay, an economy that worked for normal Americans, a secure southern border, a lot of things, frankly, that I didn't think he'd be able to deliver on. And yeah, when you screw up, when you misspeak, when you get something wrong and you change your mind, you ought to be honest with the American
would like to
people about
see
it. It's one of
those
the reasons,
notes. They should
Margaret,
require them to
why I've
show
done
those
so many
notes.
interviews is because I think it's
That's right.
important to actually explain to the
Yeah,
American
let's
the
see all
ones
the
that write it,
penises
where
he
I come
drew
down
on that
the issues
paper.
and what changed. Now, you pointed out
Yeah.
some messages from 2020.
We should get an overhead
Margaret, I've
camera
been
and get to
extremely
see that they're
consistent
writing.
that I think
A
there were a
notes
lot
cam.
of things that we could
yeah.
have done better in the Trump administration the first round if Congress was
He
doing
looks
its
like
job.
he's
I
just been
strongly
caught
believe, and
by a
I've been a
cop
United
getting
States
a
senator,
hand job
that
at
Congress
an
is not
Asian
just a
massage
high-class
parlor.
debating society.
Right,
It's
and
not
he's
just
a principal
forum
of a school.
for senators and congressmen
Yeah.
to whine
Yeah.
about problems. It's a
Don't tell
forum
my
to
wife.
govern.
I mean,
so there were a
come
lot
on.
of things on
Can't
the
we
border,
keep
on
this between
tariffs,
us?
for example, where I think that we could have done so much
The
more
cop's
if the
like,
Republican Congress and the
No, you
Democrats in
raped me
Congress
when I was at
had
that
been a
school.
little bit better about how they govern the country. They were so obsessed with impeaching Donald Trump, they couldn't actually govern. And I want to talk about this tariff issue in particular, Margaret, because Tim just
happened? Your audio
accused this
go
of
out?
being a national
No, I was
sales
just-
tax.
the Braves game
one
on also.
thing,
Oh.
and probably surprised to hear me praising Joe Biden, but the one
Eyebrows
thing
were
that Joe Biden
overrated. I agree
did
with
is he
that.
continued some of the Trump tariffs that protected American manufacturing jobs. And it's the one issue, the most pro-worker part of the Biden administration, it's the one issue where Kamala Harris has run away from Joe Biden's record. Think about this. If
Well,
you're
she
trying to
stumbled
employ
away. She's
slave
not running
laborers
from
in
anything.
China
She's too
at
drunk.
$3 a day, you're going to do that and undercut the wages of American workers unless our country stands
I think
up
it's
for
hilarious
itself
that
and
Kamala's
says,
like the
"You're
most
not
obvious
accessing our markets
alcoholic
unless you're
anybody's
paying
ever
middle-class
seen.
Americans a fair wage."
Senator, your time is up. Nora?
They
Thank
keep
you.
saying your time
Now
is
the
up
issue
after
of
they're done
reproductive
talking.
rights.
But I'm
Governor
convinced
Walz,
she's
after
into
Roe versus Wade was
vodka
overturned,
and white
you
wine. She
signed a
likes
Yeah.
bill
clear
into
stuff.
law that made
Right.
Minnesota
Yeah,
one
I
of the
think
least
Ambien. I think an
restrictive
Ambien, a couple
And then
states
probably
in the
too, it's
nation when
easier
it
to
comes
hide
to
the clear
abortion.
stuff.
Former President Trump
So,
said in the
that's a
last
good
debate
argument.
that you believe
So trying
abortion,
to-
quote, in the
smell
ninth
of it, maybe
month
mixes it
is
with
It's all
Absolutely
easier to hide the way
fine.
it mixes
Yes
whiskey,
or no?
man. You
Is
smell
that
that a
what you
mile away.
support? I'll give you 2 minutes.
That's not what the bill says, but look, this issue is what's on everyone's mind. Donald Trump put this all into motion. He brags about how great it was that he put the judges
like
in
he's wearing
and
a-
overturned Roe versus
His
Wade.
suit is like a
52 years
funeral
of
suit.
personal
It's too
autonomy.
black.
And then he tells us, oh, we send it to the states. It's a beautiful thing. Amanda
Oh,
Zaworski would
a
disagree
little
with you
blow
on it's a
bump
beautiful
there.
thing.
Yeah.
A young bride in Texas waiting for their
Oh,
child
wait.
at 18 weeks. She has a complication, a tear in the
Young
membrane.
bride,
She needs to
tending
go
child
in.
separation.
The medical care at that point needs to be decided by the doctor. And that would have been an abortion. But in Texas, that would have put them
And
in
damn it,
legal
we
jeopardy.
missed that one.
She went
We
home,
could have had an
got
abortion and
sepsis,
we lost
nearly
it.
dies,
We
and
were
now she may have
so
difficulty
close
having
to
children.
getting that
Right, that's
baby.
what
In
Killing it.
Kentucky, Hadley Duval, a 12-year-old child raped and impregnated by her
Haddly doodly
stepfather.
Duval.
Those are horrific. Now, when
That
got
is
asked
terrible.
about that, Senator
Yep.
Vance said,
They
"Two
used
wrongs don't
the,
make a right."
I hope
There
he
is no
brings
right
up the fact
in this.
that
So in Minnesota,
they
what we
let
did
babies
was
die
restore
after
Roe
they were
versus
born
Wade.
alive
We made
in
sure that
botched
we put
abortions under
women
Tim
in
Walz's,
charge of their health care. But look,
Yeah.
this is not where, if you don't know Amanda or a
It
Hadley,
also ignores
you
so
soon
everything
will.
he's saying right now.
That Project 2025 is
Project
gonna
20.
have
That's what I'm
a
about to say.
registry of pregnancies. It's going to make it more difficult, if not impossible, to get contraception and limit access, if not eliminate access to infertility treatments.
So-
For so many of you out there listening, me included, Infertility
IVF.
treatments are why I have a child.
Yeah,
That's
that's
nobody
chalk that one
else's
up for me, the
business,
IVF.
But those things
Yeah.
are being proposed.
Yeah, 'cause it
And
wasn't
the
your
catch-all
sperm,
on this
was
is,
it?
No, I mean, that's
well,
what I
the
was
state
betting
will
he'd say,
decide
but it also
what's
was
right
not
for
my sperm.
Texas might not be
Yeah, it was
right
also
for
not
Washington.
sperm, it was that horse
That's
sperm.
not how this works. This is basic human right. We have
And
seen
there was so much of it left
maternal
over. I guzzled
mortality
it.
This
skyrocket
continues
in
the
Texas,
argument
outpacing
that we
many other
learned
countries
talking
in
to
the
people
world.
at that rally.
This
It's
is
based
about healthcare.
entirely
In
on their
Minnesota, we
belief
are
that
ranked
Trump is
first in
lying.
healthcare for a reason.
Yes.
We trust women.
Because Trump
we trust
said
doctors.
he
Senator, do you wanna
believes in
respond
the
to the governor's
exceptions,
claim?
and
Will
maybe
you
you
create
know, maybe
a
he is
federal
lying. If that's
pregnancy
their argument, that's
monitoring
fine.
agency?
Yeah.
No, Nora, certainly we won't. And I want to talk about this issue because I know a lot of Americans care about it, and I know
But
a
they
lot of
just
Americans
ignore
don't agree with everything that
what
I've
the
ever
other
said on this
campaign has
topic.
said, and they just
you know,
say what
I grew up in a working
they
class
argue
family in a
against a straw
neighborhood
man.
where I knew a lot of young women
Oh,
who had
always.
unplanned pregnancies and decided to terminate those pregnancies.
Don't come into the
because they
pussy
feel like
book
they
of
didn't have
Trump.
any
I'm
other
not even going to
options.
read
They've
that
really
filthy
And, you know,
bastard.
one of them is actually very dear to me, and I know she's watching tonight.
They've really
and I love you.
mastered this,
And she told me something a couple years ago that
this
she felt like if she
down-homey
hadn't
sort
had an
of like-
abortion,
I
that
mean,
it would have
they come
destroyed her
across
life
as
because
like,
she was in an
we're very
abusive relationship.
unreasonable and very
I think that what I
concerned
take
about
from that
you.
as a
I know.
Republican
They're so
who
full of
proudly
shit.
wants to
People fall
protect
for that shit.
innocent
They're
life
all
in
full of
this
shit.
country,
I think
every
both
time
these
wants
guys
to
are full of
protect the
shit,
vulnerable,
personally.
is
If a
that my party,
salesperson
we've got
comes
to
to
do
me
so much
and
better of
they're
a
like,
job
have genuine
at
concern,
earning the American
I'm like,
people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust
Right.
us.
You
And I
know,
think that's
I
one
want
of the
someone
things
who's
that
gonna
Donald
level
Trump and
with
I
me.
are endeavoring
That's
to do.
what I want in a
I want
politician.
us as a Republican Party to
You
be
know, like a
pro-family
plumber.
in the
I
fullest
just want the
sense
plumber
of the
to
word.
level with
I
me.
want us to support
Just level with
fertility
me, man.
treatments.
How
I
bad
want
is
us to
it?
make it easier for
like, I'm
moms
Tim
to
Walsh, your
afford to have
plumber.
babies. I want it to
Yeah.
make it easier for
Well,
young
I can tell you
families
how bad-
to afford a home
Well,
so
I
they
can
can
tell you
afford a
how
place
bad it was,
to
but-
raise
You got a
that
lot of
family. And I
tampons
think
in
there's
his
so
toilet.
much that we can do on the public policy front just to give women more options. Now,
Yeah,
now, of
that
course,
is-
Donald Trump has been very clear that on the abortion policy specifically, that we have a big country and it's diverse. And California has a different viewpoint on this than Georgia. Georgia has a different viewpoint from Arizona. And the
Your
proper
uncle was
way
the
to
worst
handle this,
ventriloquist,
as messy
Stoner?
as democracy sometimes is to let voters make these decisions, let
That's
the
funny.
individual states make their abortion policy. And I think that's what makes the most sense in
funny,
a
yeah.
very big, a very
I guess you got to
diverse, and let's
learn to be a
honest,
ventriloquist. You got to
sometimes
open
a
mics,
very,
so you got to be a
messy
bad
and divided
ventriloquist
country.
first.
Governor, would
Yeah.
you like to respond and also answer the question about restrictions?
Yeah, well.
So
the
he put
question
two
got
fingers
asked
in him
Donald
and told him
Trump,
not to talk.
Maybe I could do about Minnesota. Well, let me tell you about this idea that there's diverse states. There's a young woman named Amber Thurman. She happened to be in Georgia, a restrictive state.
This is
Because
all
of that,
bullshit.
She had to travel
is total
a
bullshit.
long
Listen to the
distance
story they tell.
to
Yep.
North Carolina to try and get her care.
The leaps of logic.
Amber Thurman died in that journey back and forth. The
Oh,
fact of the
wow.
matter
That's
is,
very
how can
broad,
we as
vague.
a
That
nation
journey back and
say
forth,
that
you
your
fucking
life
liar.
and your rights,
Brad,
as basic as
Brad,
the
calm
right to
down.
control your own body,
Calm
is
down.
determined on
I mean, that's such
geography.
a fucking
There's a
insult. In that
very
journey
real
back and
chance
forth, she died. There's a
know.
lot of
It's
fucking
ridiculous.
details that
Minnesota.
they
It's
leave
so
out.
Be alive today.
stupid.
That's why the restoration of Roe
She
versus
died
Wade.
because
When you listen to
Fulton
Vice President
County
Harris talk
has a
about this
terrible
subject, and you hear me
healthcare
talk
system.
about it,
That's
you hear us
why
talking
she
exactly the
died.
same.
Like,
Donald
this is
Trump
like
is trying to figure out
the
how to
vague.
get the
They've been
political
vague
right of
about
this.
the story
I agree
already,
with a lot
but
of what
this,
Senator Vance
well,
said
this
about what's
woman, she
happening.
was trying to get
His
an abortion.
running
She went to
mate,
North
though,
Carolina.
and that's the problem.
Therefore,
died
she
from-
died.
Senator,
Yeah,
let
she
me
died
ask you
from
about that.
complications
He
due to
mentioned,
sepsis-
it was, I
of
think,
sepsis
referring to a national
complications.
ban. In the
That-
past,
that's where
you
she
have
died.
supported a federal ban
Right. Then a
on
doctor
abortion
fucked up.
after
Says, well,
15
yeah, they don't
weeks.
give any of the fucking
In fact, you
details.
said
They
if
link
someone
none of that
can't
to the
support
actual abortion law.
legislation
It's all
like that,
fucking
quote,
bullshit.
You
I know,
are
and if you
making
push
the United
back-
States the
if you
most
push back, this
barbaric pro-abortion
news-
regime anywhere
She
in
died
the
from
world.
complications
This
after taking
moderator
an
would say,
abortion
well,
pill.
I mean,
Why
that
did you
is
change your
true that
position?
she did go to North
Well, Nora,
Carolina.
First of all,
Moving
I never
on.
supported a national
Right.
ban. I did
And,
during
you
when
know,
I was running
I've been
for
in
Senate
North
in
Carolina,
2022,
but that's
talk
probably not
about
going to be the
setting
cause of
some
my
minimum
death
national
whenever I
standard.
die.
For example,
Yeah,
we have a
it was
post-abortion
years ago I
abortion
went.
ban in
Zach
this-
says
in
she died of
place in this
complications
country
after
at the
taking a
federal
birth.
level.
Yes.
I don't think anybody's ting to get rid of that.
And
or at
they don't
least
even
I
give us
hope not.
details
So I know
about
that Democrats have
her-
taken a very
how
radical
long long she was
pro-abortion
by
stance.
herself
But
or
Nora,
what her other
you know,
home
one of the
life.
things
It's all
that
such
changed
bullshit.
Is in the state of Ohio, we had a referendum in 2023, and the people of Ohio voted
Yeah, they fuck up a
overwhelmingly,
lot.
by the
There
way,
is
against my
almost
position.
400,000 that
And I
has been
think that what I learned
documented
from that, Nora, is that we've got
medical
to do a better
error
job
deaths.
at winning back people's trust. So many young women
And
would love to have families.
actually,
so
yeah,
many
almost
young women
400 and
also
almost
see an unplanned
500,000 people
pregnancy
who
as
are
something that's
permanently
gonna
handicapped
destroy
from
their
delayed
livelihood, destroy their
diagnosis because of
education, destroy their
misdiagnosis previously.
relationships. And we have got
That's why
to
people
earn
should be
people's
advocates
trust back.
hardcore when they're in
And
the
that's why
hospital.
Donald Trump and I are committed to pursuing pro-family policies, making childcare more accessible, making fertility treatments more accessible, because we've got to do a better job at that. And that's what real leadership is.
Governor, your response.
I'm going to respond on the pro-abortion piece of that. No, we're not.
A drag
We're
queen in every
pro-women.
classroom.
We're pro-freedom
Yeah, I would
to make your
yeah,
own choice.
please, just
We
go
know
there,
what the
Walls.
implications are to not be that.
This guy is such a fag,
Women having
dude.
miscarriages,
He's such a fag.
women not getting the care, physicians feeling like they may be prosecuted for providing that care. And as far as making sure that we're educating our children and giving them options, Minnesota's a state with one of the lowest teen pregnancy rates. We understand that too. We know that the options need to be available, and we make that true. We also make it, we're a top 3 state for the best place to raise children. But these two things
But
to
says
try and
who?
say that we're pro-children, but we don't like this, or you guys are pro-abortion, that's not the case at all. We are pro-freedoms for women to make their choices, and we're going, and Kamala Harris is making
We're
the case,
pro-
to make options for children more affordable, a $6,000 child tax
Oh,
credit,
Kevin.
but we're not going to base that on the back
This
of
guy's
making someone like
insufferable.
Amber Thurman
I mean, he's almost
drive
as
600
insufferable as
miles to try and
Kamala.
get health care.
Senator.
May I respond to that? First of all, Governor, I agree with you. Amber Thurman should still be alive, and there are a
I
lot
agree.
of people who should still be alive, and I certainly wish that she was.
She was.
And maybe you're free to disagree with me on this and explain this to me, but as I read the Minnesota law that you signed into law, the statute that you signed into law,
Oh, here we go.
it says that a doctor who presides over an abortion where the baby survives, the doctor is under no obligation to provide life-saving care to a baby who survives a botched late-term abortion.
Yes, they
That
are,
is,
Forrest
I
Whitaker.
think,
That's
whether
not
you're
true.
pro-choice or
Yep, that's not how the law
pro-abortion,
is.
that is fundamentally barbaric. And that's why I use that word, Nora, is because some of what we've seen, do you want to force Catholic hospitals to perform abortions against their will? Because Kamala Harris has supported suing Catholic nuns to violate their freedom of conscience. We can be a big and diverse country where we respect people's freedom of conscience and make the country more pro-baby and
I wish they
pro-family. But
demanded
please,
these people to
Yes,
elaborate
Governor,
on these
please
things.
respond.
Look, this is one where there's always something there. This is a very
See,
simple
he only gets a
proposition.
minute here.
These are women's decisions to make about their healthcare decisions, and the physicians who know best when they need to do this. Trying to distort the way a law is written to try and make a point, that's not it
but
at all.
what was I wrong
This
about,
was-
Governor? Please tell me,
Yeah,
what was I wrong
that is
about?
not
Tell
the way
him.
the law is written. Look, I've given
But
this,
how?
I've given this advice on a lot of things, that getting involved, getting engaged, that's been misread, and it was fact-checked at the last debate. But the point on
fuck
this is
you
there's a
with the fact
continuation
check.
of these guys to try and tell women or to get involved. I use this line on this, just mind your own business on this. Things worked best when Roe versus Wade was in place.
Just mind your
When
own
we do
business
arrest
is his
warrants
Mind your
on
own
Roe,
business, yeah.
That works best. That doesn't preclude us
That's
from
really
increasing
Except
funding
when it
for
comes to, like,
children. It doesn't
vaccination
Except
increase us
child.
from making sure that once
Right,
a
yeah.
child born,
Except
like in
the- except
Minnesota,
the unborn
they get
child.
meals.
It
They
tries
get
to mind
early
its own
childhood
business, but it
education.
can't.
They get
this
healthcare.
side
So
that
the
claims to be
hiding
for the
behind we're
most
gonna do all these
vulnerable
other
in
things
society.
when you're not proposing
It
them
just
in your
truly
budget.
isn't. And
Kamala
that's what
Harris is
always
proposing
blows
them.
my mind.
She's proposing all those things to make life easier for families.
I asked a
Yeah.
specific question, Governor. You gave me a slogan as a response.
It's not
Right.
the case.
He's
It's
right
not
about
true.
that.
That's not what the law says. So you
Tell us what the
fact-check it with
fucking law
President
says
Trump.
then,
Yeah,
you
read the
fucking
law,
creepy
yeah.
piece
Gentlemen,
of
there's
shit.
a lot to discuss. We have to move on, and we're going to be right
fact
back
check.
with much more of the CBS News vice presidential debate. in
Now
just
we
a
go
moment.
to Kamala and Pfizer ads. Forrest Mommy says no state doesn't have rape and incest, health of the mother law. Right. So they just argue
Okay,
against this
s-
fucking straw man.
Did you hear that? Did you see that? Oh man, I wish you could go back.
What was it?
Vance was like talking. It looked like he was talking shit to the moderators.
The moderators are awful, so I'm glad
Oh, yeah.
he should talk shit to them. And Forrest Mommy says, yeah, just let a weird, uncle get his niece pregnant a bunch of times and abort it so no one knows. What is a woman, says Nate. This is like everything that remember when we were talking to all those people and they all said, we said, what is the biggest problem with Project 2025? And they said, the problem is that it's all of it. It's all of it, and that Trump is going to eliminate the education system and abortion.
That's
across,
what they all say. He's going to eliminate public schools, is what they'll distort it to say. Some of them will say he's going to eliminate public schools.
Yeah, and they are worried about that because they can't indoctrinate the children because they worry that white Christian nationalism will take over.
Have you ever been to a charter school? You know, we've got one near us that
I have
DeKalb
not
School,
toured. I haven't done
DeKalb
it.
School of the Arts.
No, that's where Stacey Abrams got a scholarship to back in the day to be an actress.
It's a wonderful school. I taught a week long. I subbed for a class there for a week, and
Yeah.
anyways, for their acting class, and kids were amazing. I mean, it was kids of all ages.
I agree with
And
that.
and one of the kids, was probably 10 years old. He was afraid to do one of the acting exercises. He was just nervous because these kids rotate around and they get a taste of everything. All the other kids just started like, "Come on," cheering him on. "You can do it. Come on!" And I was like, "Man, this is not." These were not like my friends growing up.
Right. So this is a theater.
Right.
group.
So they were. I mean, I got to
It's
admit,
audition to get into that school.
hey man, I was very jealous when I saw the school. It was like the closest thing to Fame. You know that TV show from way
Yep.
back, Fame. It's the
Yeah,
closest
Abrams
thing-
went to that. The guy who, the black actor that was in the show Atlanta, the rapper, he was
Yeah.
also went to that school.
You're right. Nobody does care at all about the fathers of the dead babies. That's always infuriating to me.
Because some of the fathers do care. Some of the fathers
Some of
don't
them really
like-
do care. Yeah,
um,
for sure.
Yeah,
Some
so
of them don't even know.
right, they don't know, and then they're told later, and maybe they would have liked a different outcome. So a couple things that Trump said. Let me refresh this real quick. We have Trump tweeted 1 minute ago, Democrats are not pro-women. They are letting men play in women's sports. Walls can't even define what a woman is. We had that in the comments a
love
moment ago. And Trump had a very long, in all caps tweet. It says, everyone knows I would not support a federal abortion ban under any circumstances and would, in fact, veto it because it is up to the states to decide based on the will of their voters, the will of the people. Like Ronald Reagan before me, I fully support the 3 exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I do not support the Democrats' radical position of late-term abortion, like, as an example, in the 7th, 8th, or 9th month, or in the case there is any question, the possibility of execution of the baby after birth. Thank you for your attention to this matter! Exclamation point. So interesting. And then he says, Walsh should take less notes and focus on telling the truth more.
I love it.
That's funny. Why is it Walsh answering the questions about his lies? He doesn't talk a lot, but it's all total BS. I saved our country from the China virus. Tampon Tim let Minneapolis burn in 2020 and then begged me to save him, which is true, apparently. He is talking so fast because he's nervous as hell and lying. So he is nervous. I think they're about to come back here. But real quick, we had in the chats, Big Perm sent me a link because he said that he got a message, like an ad request or a donation request. It said, before Tim steps off the debate stage at the VP debate stage, 900% match your Dim House donation. And then there's this long message. So they're doing the campaign funding hardcore in the middle of it. Trump probably is too. I like it when they actually make it seem like it's coming from the candidate themselves, like they're doing it at the commercial break.
Oh yeah.
All right, here they are.
Do you think holding parents responsible could curb mass shootings? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, well, Nora, on that particular case, I don't know the full details, but I certainly trust local law enforcement and local authorities to make those decisions. I think in some cases the answer is going to be yes, and in some cases the answer is going to be no. And the details really matter here, of course. For example, if a kid steals a gun, that's going to be different than if a parent hands over a gun knowing that their kid is potentially dangerous. But look, I want to just sort of speak as a father of 3 beautiful little kids, and our oldest is now in 2nd grade. And like a lot of parents, we send our kids to school with such hope and such joy and such pride.
Unlike Walsh's kid, who's clearly abused.
Unfortunately, that a lot of kids are going to experience this terrible epidemic of
please
gun
say
violence.
something
And of
like
course,
that.
our hearts go out to the families that are affected by this terrible stuff. And we do have to do better. And I think that Governor Walz and I actually probably agree that we need to do better on this. The question is just how do we actually do it? Now, here's something that really bothers me and worries me about this epidemic of violence. The gross majority, close to 90% in some of the statistics I've seen, of the gun violence in this country is committed with illegally obtained firearms. And while we're on that topic, we know that thanks to Kamala Harris's open border, we've seen a massive influx in the number of illegal guns run by the Mexican drug cartel. So that number, the amount of illegal guns in our country is higher today than it was 3.5 years ago.
What's Walsh writing?
But
He's
what do
not-
we do about the schools?
he doesn't
What do we do
say
to
enough
protect
to
our
be
kids?
writing
And I
that
think the
many
answer
notes.
is, and I say this not
know what I
loving
mean?
the answer.
Yeah.
Because I don't want my kids to go to school and in a school school that
Yeah, it
feels
doesn't-
unsafe
it
or where
looks like
there are
he's
visible
checking
signs of
things off of-
security. But unfortunately,
Every
so we
se-
have
right,
to
every
increase
se-
security
just-
in our schools. We have to make the doors lock better. We
I'm-
have to
I'm
make the
telling you,
doors
Kamala
stronger.
did the
We've
same
got to make the
thing.
windows stronger.
He's
And
shaking
of
his
course,
head
we've
at
got to
make the
increase
doors
school
lock better. He's
resource
like,
officers
no.
because
He doesn't
the
want 'em.
idea
He's like,
that
they don't
we can
need to be
actually
exclusive.
wave
It needs to
and
be
take guns
inclusive.
out of the hands of
can't
bad
grab
guys.
those
It
trans
just
kids
doesn't
and
fit
cut
with
their
recent
dicks off
experience. So
if
we've
we
got to
lock
make our
the
schools
doors.
safer.
Right.
And I think we've got to have some common sense bipartisan solutions
We need
for how to do
school
that.
shooter
Governor, you
inclusivity.
have 2 minutes.
Well, I think
Does
all
that
the
get
parents
you
watching
kicked off
tonight, this
YouTube
is your
talking about
biggest
trans
nightmare.
kids'
Look, I
dicks?
got a
Oh, I
17-year-old,
get kicked
and,
off. Everything is.
and he witnessed
yeah.
a shooting
That's
at a
why we're on
community
other
center
platforms.
playing volleyball. Those things don't leave you. As a
I
member
don't talk
of
about 'em
Congress,
often,
I
but-
sat in my office surrounded
Don't
by
censor yourself
dozens
at
of the
all. I
San
don't
Diego
care about
parents,
YouTube.
and they were looking at my 7-year-old picture on the wall. Their 7-year-old were dead. And they were asking us to do something. And look, I'm a hunter.
Do you
I
think
own
that's true? They were
firearms.
looking
Vice
at the
President.
picture of his
We
7-year-old
understand
on
that
the
Second
wall, and their
Amendment
7-year-old is
is
dead.
there, but our first
Or is that just a
responsibility to our
bullshit
kids
story?
Figure this out. In
The
Minnesota,
Second
we
Amendment says
enacted
in order to get
enhanced
food,
red flag laws, enhanced
can-
background check,
you know,
and we can
the
start to
right
get
to bear
data. But
arms
here's the problem: if
will
we really
not
want to
be-
solve this, we've got folks that won't allow research to be even done on gun violence. And this idea
They do research
that we
on
should
it.
just live with it, and I here's what I do think:
You know-
that this is a good start to the conversation. I 100% believe that Senator Vance hates it when these kids, it's abhorrent and it breaks your heart. I agree with that. But that's not far enough. When
Big
we know
perm-
there are things that work.
so you-
I've spent time in Finland.
I receive
and
these
seen some Finnish
Democrat
schools.
fundraising things because I
They
sign
don't
up for
have
those
this
because I
happen.
go to those
Even
trainings
though
to
they
see what
have
they
a
do.
high
But
gun
you don't
ownership
even, you're
rate
not
in
even
the
signed
country.
up for those, and
There
you're
are
still receiving
reasonable
those
things
Democrat
that we can
fundraising
do
notices. That's
to
interesting.
make a difference. It's not infringing on your Second Amendment. And the idea to have some of these weapons out there, it just doesn't make any sense. Kamala Harris, as an attorney general, worked on this issue. She knows that it's there. No one's trying to scaremonger and say we're taking your guns, but I ask all of you out there, do you want your schools hardened to look like a fort?
You get a
Is
ton
that-
of texts
is that
too,
where we have
Forrest
to go
Molly,
when we
from
know
Kamala.
there's countries around the world that their children aren't practicing these types of drills. They're being kids. We owe it to them to get a fix. These are things that shouldn't
To
be
get
that
a
difficult.
fix.
You can still keep your firearm.
gotta get
and
these
we can
kids
make
a
a difference.
fix?
We have to. If you're listening tonight, this breaks your heart.
Senator.
Tim, first of all, I didn't know that your 17-year-old witnessed a shooting. I'm sorry about that, and I hope that he's
appreciate
doing
you saying
okay.
so.
Christ have mercy. It is awful.
Is
And
that
I
true?
appreciate what Tim said
Is that
actually
true? I
about
don't know.
Finland, because I do think it illustrates
find out
some
tomorrow.
of the frankly weird differences between our own
I bet
country's
there's
gun
some
violence
weird hitch
problem
in that story.
And,
Oh, yeah.
and Finland is okay. First of all, we have way higher rates of mental health abuse or mental health substance abuse. We have way higher rates of depression, way higher rates of anxiety. We unfortunately have a mental health crisis in this country that I really do think that we need to get to the root causes of, because I don't think it's the whole reason why we have such a bad gun violence problem, but I do think it's a big piece of it. Another driver of the gun violence epidemic, especially that affecting our kids, it doesn't earn as many headlines, but is the terrible gun violence problem in a lot of our big cities. And this is why we have
Don't
to
even bring up
empower law
Chicago, you
enforcement
racist.
to arrest the bad
It's
guys,
racist.
put them away,
can't
and
bring it
take
up.
gun
You
offenders
can't
off
bring
the
it up.
streets. I think there's a whole host of things that we can do here,
talk
but I do think
about
in our
it.
schools we've got to talk about
The
more
government
security.
made the mental
Senator,
health
thank
crisis.
you. Governor, you previously opposed an
Yeah,
assault
it-
weapons ban, but it only
still
later
think
in your political career
we should
did you change your position.
Go
Why?
get some
Yeah, I sat in
KKK
that office with those
outfits
San Diego
and
parents.
stand
I've become friends
outside
with school
and be
shooters.
white
I've seen
dudes
it.
for
Look,
Harris.
The NRA,
Put that on the
Harris signs.
KKK suit.
Yeah,
I'm at an age where
KKK.
They were holding
free.
signs. They were holding
Confession
signs.
on
White
that
dudes for
before.
Harris, but we're
Shit.
dressed up like
That's
in
how
the
we live today.
KKK.
And several things I want to mention
That'd
on
be
this is
hilarious.
talking about cities and where it's at. The number one, where the most firearm deaths happen in Minnesota are rural suicides. And we have an epidemic of children getting guns and shooting themselves.
But
And
he's
so
saying the
we have,
rural
and we should
suicides
look at all of the
are-
issues.
So
Yeah.
it's people killing
Making sure
themselves.
folks have health
Well,
care
if they
and all
don't
that,
have a
but I wanna
gun,
be
they'll
very
just
careful.
give up. They'll go,
This
"Oh,
idea of stigmatizing
shit.
mental health.
I can't
just
kill
because you have a
myself."
They'll
mental
find
health
another
issue
ceiling
doesn't
option
mean
they
you're
have. They
violent.
wouldn't take
And I
pills or
think
do
what we
anything
end up
else.
You know,
doing
what
is
they
we
don't
start
ever
looking
talk
for a
about too
scapegoat.
is the
Sometimes
intent
it
behind
just
it is
is
really
the
the problem.
guns.
You know, in
It's
in
just the
China,
guns.
they have
and there are things that you can
revenge
do
against
about it.
society
But I do
killings.
think
I've
that
talked
this is
about it
one,
before.
and I think this is a healthy conversation.
Revenge
Really?
against
I
society.
think there's
Yeah.
a capacity
Every year
to find
after the
solutions on
Communist
this
Party
that work,
convenes,
protect Second Amendment,
basically
protect
the
our
message
children.
that's
our
sent to
priority.
the entire
Gentlemen, thank you,
population
Margaret.
is we don't believe in
Thank you,
individual
Laura.
rights.
Let's turn
You
now
don't
to
get
the
any
top
say in this.
contributor to
And so people who get
inflation. the high cost
disgruntled
of housing
about that
and rent.
will take it out
There's
on
a shortage
society,
of more
and
than
they'll
4
do
million
things
homes
like
in the United States.
mow
Mass
over a
shooting.
bunch
and
of
that contributes
they'll
Yeah.
mow
to
over
the high
kids
housing
like school
crisis.
kids in a
Governor
crosswalk. They'll just
Walz,
mow them over.
The Harris
They'll
campaign
even
promises
put it in
a
reverse and
$25,000
back up over them and
down
make sure they're all
payment
dead.
assistance for first-time home
No,
buyers.
it's
and
a rat. It's an
$10,000
epidemic
tax
over
credit.
there.
So that's
Also
kind of like
promised to build
accelerationism,
3 million
so to
new
speak, to
homes.
force.
Where are
yeah.
you building these
Yeah, no, they don't
homes
ever talk
and
about
won't
that
handing
because
out
so
that
they don't
kind
have the
of money
guns, but they
just
do it
drive
that
up
way. They
prices?
find
I
whatever,
got
yeah.
into an
No, it's
argument
not.
with
And, you know,
a
we have-
with
first,
a
let me say this.
Canadian
This issue
liberal
of housing,
friend,
and I think those of you listening on
every
this,
time
the problem
I
we've
said,
had is
well, yeah, but
that we've
over
got a
here
lot
they
of
do
folks that
stabbings. He
see
just kept
housing
going,
as
it's
another
not a gun.
commodity. It can be
Well, it's not a
bought
gun.
up, it can be
I'm like,
shifted, it can be moved
It's like,
around.
have you ever been
Those are
stabbed?
not
It's
folks
probably
living in
much
those
it's
houses.
way more
Those of you listening
brutal.
tonight, that house
You know,
is a
I mean,
big deal.
seriously,
I
like,
bought
you
and
know,
owned one
the-
house
like
in
the
my life.
bayonet drills and
My
stuff,
mom
like,
still lives in
those
the house where
guys-
I was. And when I think of a house,
We've
I'm thinking
distanced
of
ourselves
Christmas
from that kind of
services
war.
after
No one
midnight
has
mass
fought like
where
that
you go
since
with your
ancient
family.
times.
We need to
People
make it
chickened
more
out in
affordable.
bayonet
And one of the
charges.
things, as I said,
See, it's gonna be, we got to round up all, we got to take all the drones away from people.
And bringing a new way of approaching this is something we're
Talking
doing
about
in Minnesota
inflation
from
right
that
now.
lead.
How could a
We in
law
the state
stop it? Well,
invested in
because it
making
makes
sure
it
our
illegal.
housing was the biggest investment that we'd ever made in housing.
His
It
facial
starts to make it
expression is
easier.
so
We
gay,
cut some of the
so
red tape.
gay.
Local
Can't
folks,
take
look,
it.
we can't do it at the federal level, but
No,
local
it's
folks
funny.
make
I
it
always
easier
think
to
it's
build those
hilarious
homes.
when
And then that down
they're
payment
just like, we
assistance.
just gotta
I can
have a
tell all of you
law.
out there, one of the, certainly for me.
Right, as though it's that clear
Using the
cut,
GI
and
Bill
not
was
every
one thing,
law is.
But a veteran's home loan,
They say,
the big thing about
like,
a veteran's
I
home
heard
loan
Obama
is
saying,
you don't have to pay the down
Well,
payment.
Trump never
Those are
even
things
passed
that make
a
it there. Now
single
look, you're
law,
going to pay it
no
back,
legislation.
and you're going to pay your
Good.
mortgage. Those are things that
I'm
we know in
fine
the long
with
run, the
that.
appreciated value, the generational wealth that's created.
the
from
laws
it.
are all
And I will
created.
give
They're always-
Minneapolis
they
an
add some
example.
loopholes and shit
Minneapolis
in
is
them,
the
and it's
one
just-
city where we've seen the lowest
it's
inflation
all to
rates.
give them more
We've seen
power,
a
really.
12% increase in
absolutely.
stock because we put some of these things in, and we're
He is looking
implementing
like a
state
South Park
program to
character
make sure
these
we get some
last-
of that down payment assistance. We get it back from people.
Yeah, and now
Because here's
every
what we
house is
know.
gonna be
People with
$25,000
stable
more
housing
expensive.
End up with stable jobs.
Yep.
People with stable
Yeah, this
housing
plan-
have their kids able to be able to get to school. All of those things in the long run end up saving our money, and that's the
This
thing
is a
that I think
DEI
we should be
plan,
able
the
to find
$25,000.
some common
Oh, I
ground
know.
in, but we can't blame
They have the
parents have-
conditions, yeah.
immigrants for the only reason.
Your family
That's not
has
the
to
case that's
never
happening in
have
many
been able
cities.
in
The
history
fact
have
of
ever
the
been able to
matter
buy a
is
house
that
to
we don't have
qualify.
enough
Correct.
naturally affording affordable housing, but we can make sure that the government's there to help kickstart it, create that.
It's
base.
called like the DEI,
Governor, your
like that's
time
what the
up.
bill
Senator
is. It's
Vance,
called
as far as your
identity
campaign's
politics
position,
name.
the
I can't remember
promise is
off the top
to
of my head.
seize federal lands to build homes.
Yeah, money
remove
printer, go Brewer,
regulation,
that's exactly
provide
right.
tax breaks, and cut back on immigration, which you say pushes up prices. Where are you going to build all the new homes
She's
you're
kinda hot,
promising,
too,
and
that
what
little-
part of any of this plan will provide
fucking whatever
immediate
that,
relief?
whatever
You
that
have 2
Tim,
minutes.
whatever that
Well,
JD
first of
Vance
all,
colored
Tim
outfit
just
she's
said
wearing.
something that I agree with. We don't want to blame immigrants
I
for
don't
higher
get the-
housing
the
prices,
pink
but
tie.
we do want to blame Kamala Harris for letting in millions of illegal aliens into this
Pass the
country,
bill.
which
Pass
does
the bill.
drive
Pass
the bill.
up costs.
I mean,
Tim.
come on. Why don't you
25
moderators tell them to
million
pass the
illegal
bill?
aliens competing with Americans for scarce
Pass the
homes is one of the
bill.
most significant drivers of home prices in the country. It's why we have massive increases in home prices that have happened right alongside
I don't think this
massive
guy's
increases
attracted
in
to
illegal
women.
alien
what?
populations.
I don't think Tim
under
Walz is
Kamala
attracted to
Harris's
women.
leadership. Now, Tim just mentioned a bunch of ideas. Now, some of those ideas I actually think are halfway decent, and some of them I disagree with. But the most important thing here is Kamala
his wife
Harris
is not bad
running
looking.
as a newcomer to politics. She is the sitting vice president. If she wants to enact all of these policies to
I'm
make
dying with
housing more
Vance's
affordable,
facial expression.
I invite her to use the office that the American people already gave her, not sit around and campaign.
It is
and
funny
do
to watch
nothing
some of this
while
stuff
Americans
with it
find the
muted just to
American
watch
dream
their facial
of homeownership
expressions.
completely unaffordable. Now, you asked, Margaret, what would immediately change the equation?
There
for
he is,
American
writing more
citizens?
notes. He's
If
not
you
writing
lower
notes.
Energy prices, as Donald Trump says, drill, baby, drill. One of the biggest drivers of housing costs, aside from illegal immigration, is think about it. If a truck driver's
Seriously,
paying 40% more for diesel,
it's like every
then the
time he
worker
writes a
he's
note, it's
delivering
like-
to the job site to build the house is also going to be.
He writes a note that he comes up and says the exact talking point that he's been saying on the campaign trail.
Relief for American citizens, not, by the way, just
Yeah, I
in
don't think
housing, but
Vance
in a
is
whole
taking
host of
notes,
other
is he?
economic goods, too.
No, he hasn't taken it. Just like
Senator
Trump didn't
Vance,
take
you still
notes.
have
This is why I think it was a
23
strategic
seconds
thing
there. Do you
because
wanna
the
answer?
narrative,
Where-
which is true, is that Kamala
Governor, we will
can't
get
go off
to you in a
script.
moment, but
Now
Senator,
Tim doesn't
where
seem
are
to
you
go off
gonna
script
see
too. I
the
think they were
federal
told,
lands?
look
Can you
like you're
clarify?
taking notes, so it looks like you're
Donald Trump
reacting
says
in the
we have
moment.
a lot
That's
of
what I
federal
think.
lands that aren't being used for anything. They're not being used
And it
for
looks
national
weird,
parks. They're not
is
being
what it looks
used, and
like.
they could be
It looks
Just
like
plain
where we build
weird,
a lot
yeah.
of housing.
Yeah, like if you
And
were
I
having
do
a
think that we
conversation,
should
if you
be
and I went
opening
out
up
for
building in this country,
lunch, and
we
I just
have
brought a
a
pen and
lot
paper
of
and started
land that
taking
could
notes
be
during our
used. We have a lot of
conversation.
And you're like, how you been? I'm like, well, I've been doing okay. You start taking notes. I'm like, what are you writing?
I'm just, you know,
and we should be building
it's
more
just a
homes for the
conversation,
American
Brad.
citizens who deserve to be here.
Senator, your time is up. Governor, I do want to let you respond to the allegation
your
that the
time
vice
is
president is letting in.
Well, of course,
Does
it's
she
not
look
true.
like
Given
she
the
is-
facts? I guess we agreed not to fact
She looks
check. I'll
like
check it. That, look, crossings are
a
down
little
compared to
pale,
when
doesn't
Donald
she?
Trump left office. But it's again blaming and not trying to find the
When you-
solution. I was going to
look at her
ask
when
on
you
this
see the-
question, are we
the
going
pink
to drill
moderator.
and build houses in the same federal land? And I think when people hear federal lands, these are really important pieces of land. Now, Minnesota doesn't have a lot of federal lands. I know in the western part of the
This
country.
guy
we
was the
do.
worst
There's
teacher. What did he
not a
teach
lot
in
of
high school? I don't
federal
remember.
lands
Do you remember?
In and around
I thought he
Minneapolis,
taught
for
history.
example.
No.
So
History.
the issue is I don't understand the
he
federal
did.
lands
It's
issue
perfect.
unless we see
Yeah,
this,
this
and I
guy's
worry
teaching
about this as someone who
the-
cares
the
deeply
worst
about our
history.
national parks and our federal lands.
Like,
Look,
if he were
Minnesota,
teaching today, he'd be
we
like,
protect these
January
things. We've
6th
got
was
about
3
20% of the world's
9/11s.
fresh water.
Oh, my
These lands protect. They're there for a reason. They belong to all of us. But again, this is when you view housing and you view these things as commodities. Like, there's a chance to make money here. Let's take this federal land and let's sell it to people for that. I think there's better ways to do this. We've seen it in Minnesota. We're
Yeah,
able to
I'm interested
refurbish
to
some of
see
these
how they
houses. We're
portray
able to
this
make some
afterwards, 'cause
investment. that gets people
I
in.
think
And
you might be
still-
right where this
on
whole-
the fact on this.
Where
Economists,
they've kind of
Senator
contextualized
Bench,
this
you said you don't
overly
like the
anxious
economists. Which
beta
economists are saying that it is
attitude that he
immigrants that's
has.
adding to the cost?
Governor,
As
Governor,
being
your
good?
your time is up.
So-
but
sorry,
Senator,
sorry.
on that point, I'd like for you to clarify. There
Her-
are many
she seems a
contributing
bit-
factors
maybe she
to
stayed up a
high
little too late
housing
last
costs.
night.
What evidence do you have that migrants are part of this problem?
Well, there's a Federal Reserve study that we're happy to share after the debate. We'll put it up on social media, actually.
Take it
that
to your hotel
really
room, let
drills
you see
down
it.
on the connection between increased levels of migration, especially illegal immigration, and higher housing prices. Now, of course, Margaret, that's not the entire driver of higher housing prices. It's also the regulatory regime of
It
Kamala
looks like he's
Harris.
walking over
Look,
towards
we are
him,
a
doesn't it?
country of builders.
Yeah.
We're a country of doers. We're a country of explorers.
Can you
But we
imagine Tim
increasingly
Walz
have a
challenging
federal
this fight?
administration
So,
that makes it
this
harder
debate
to develop
is
our
boring.
resources, makes it harder to
Like, they
build
gotta-
things,
they
and wants
gotta-
to
they
throw
gotta
people in
spice it up
jail
a little bit.
for
This is
not
literally-
doing
Let's
everything
get some
exactly as
Ottoman
Kamala
couch
Harris says
banging
they
and some
have
horse
to do.
semen in
Yeah.
And
there.
what that means
Yeah,
is
let's
that you have a
start
lot
throwing
of
some
people who
shit
would love
around
to
here.
build homes who aren't able to
Get
build
some
homes.
titties in this
I actually agree with
Yeah,
Tim.
let's see some
We should
Walz
get out of this
titties.
idea
Walz
of housing
titties.
as a commodity.
Let's
The
see.
thing that
Ties
has
up,
most
gentlemen.
turned housing
Come on.
into
Throw a
commodity
tampon.
is
Maybe
giving it
he was
away to
anticipating a
millions upon
tampon getting
millions of people
thrown.
who have no
Vance
legal right
was,
to be here.
Yeah.
and he wanted to have a
What are the
tie so
federal
you couldn't see it.
regulations? I
If
deal
it
with this as a
Governor.
governor.
he was smeared
You
on
can
him.
very quickly reply.
I'm sorry. I get this as a governor, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, that in some cases, many of those are local, many of them are state. I don't know which ones are
State.
federal, but I
State.
think whenever we talk regulations, people think
Regulations.
they can get rid of them. I think you want to be able to get out of your house in a fire. I think you want to make sure that it's fireproof and those types of things. So which are the regulations? Because the vice president's not responsible for those.
Oh,
Congress
this is
writes
always
those.
a liberal
Governor,
talking
thank
point
you,
about
gentlemen.
regulations.
We have a lot to get to. You're passionate about the housing
Regulating
crisis,
business
I can
licenses?
tell.
Is
Well,
that
no,
what
they're
you're
like
Nora,
saying
thank
things
you.
like, we
One
need
of the
fire
top
codes
problems
and the
facing
elevators need to
Americans
work,
is
and blah,
the
blah,
high
blah.
cost
And I
of
said to my
healthcare.
friend one time, I
Fat
go,
shaming is what it
At
is.
the
I
last
was like, when
presidential
you're in the
debate, former
elevator
President
and
Trump
you
was
read
asked
that little
about
sign that says it's
replacing
been
the
checked
Affordable
off
Care
and it's
Act.
been signed
In
by
response, he
a,
said, "I have
by
concepts
some
of a plan."
politician somewhere,
Since
some
then,
appointed
Senator,
person.
you've talked about
Do you think that
changing
person
how
gives a
chronically
fuck
ill
about your
Americans get
safety?
health
Really
insurance.
care.
Do you
Can
think
you
like every
explain
time there's an
how that
elevator
would work?
accident, they hang
And
their
can you
head like,
guarantee that
God
Americans with
damn it, we lost
pre-existing
another
They,
one.
conditions
they blame the
won't
fattest person on the
pay more?
elevator.
I'll give
Yeah,
you 2 minutes.
They don't
Well,
care.
of course, we're going to cover Americans with
Concepts of
pre-existing
a plan
conditions.
was in the
fact, a lot of
question,
my
but not
family
in
members
the
have-
answer,
Have
so-
gotten health care I believe, members of my family actually got private health
If
insurance.
not
at least
for
the
the
first
government,
time,
we'd be too
switched off of
stupid
Medicaid onto private
not to
insurance
live
for the
in
first time
dangerous
under
fire
Donald Trump's
hazards, says
leadership. And I
Zach.
think
Right?
that,
Yeah.
a lot of people have
Yeah.
criticized this concepts of a plan remark. I think it's very simple common sense. I think as Tim Walz knows from 12 years in Congress, you're not going to propose a 900-page bill standing on a debate stage. It would bore everybody to tears.
Project
and it wouldn't actually
2025.
mean anything because part of this is the give and take of bipartisan negotiation. Now, when Donald Trump was actually actually
Taking some
president. And again,
notes.
he has a record to be proud of. Prescription drugs.
How many- he must
fell
have a
in
really
2018
thick
for
notebook.
the first time in a very long time. Under Kamala
He's
Harris's
really,
leadership,
really
prescription
scribbling.
drugs are up about 7%. Under Donald Trump's entire 4 years, they were up about 1.5%. He introduced
He's not fucking taking
pricing
notes.
transparency. Think about healthcare. You go into a hospital, you try to
It's
buy
driving me
something,
crazy.
and nobody knows what it actually costs.
He
That
keeps
price
doing that.
transparency
He's
will
like, he's
actually
keeping
give
up.
American consumers a little bit more choice, and will also.
So let's
drive
listen
down
to what he
costs.
says. See if
And
it
we
sounds
talked
like
about,
something
you
that
know,
came from his
the
notes.
reinsurance regulations is what I was
Hope
talking
it's
about.
real
What
short.
Donald Trump has said
Right.
that if we allow states
Project
to
2025.
experiment a little bit on how to cover both the chronically ill but the non-chronically ill, it's not just a plan. He actually implemented some of these regulations when he was president of the United States, and I think you can make a really good argument that it salvaged
He's been
Obamacare,
writing
which was
fucking
doing
notes this whole
disastrously
fucking
until Donald
time.
Trump came along. I think it's an important point about President Trump. Of course, you don't have to agree with everything
Hey,
that President Trump.
if you're gonna
has
write
ever
that many
said or
notes, you
ever
better
done.
have a
But
funny
when
quip, you know?
Obamacare was
Oh, yeah.
crushing under the weight
He's
of its
still
own
writing.
regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed
He's
the
designing
program.
the perfect
Instead,
tampon.
He worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care. It's not perfect, of course, and there's so much more that we can do, but I think that Donald Trump has earned the right to put in place some better health care policies. He's earned it because he did it successfully the first time.
Governor?
All right, here's where being an old guy gives you some history. I was there at the creation of the ACA. And the reason it was so important is I come from a major healthcare state, home of the Mayo Clinic, home to Medical Alley, 3M, Medtronic, all of those. We understand healthcare. It's why we're ranked first on affordability and accessibility and quality of healthcare. And so what I know is under Kamala Harris, more people are covered than they have before. And those of you listening, this is critical to you. Now, Donald Trump all of a sudden wants
These
to
were his
go
notes.
back and
Kamala
remember
gets
this.
to take all the
He
good
ran
stuff and
on
then
the
say
first
she's
thing he
not
was going to do on day
responsible for any
one
of the bad
was
stuff,
to
right?
repeal Obamacare.
That's the strategy.
On day
Yeah,
one,
right.
he tried to sign
Exactly.
an executive order to repeal
Denver
the
says
ACA.
Wallace's
He
constant
signed
use
on
of
to a
these stances and
lawsuit
appeal to
repeal
to
the
authority,
ACA, but
logical
lost at the
fallacies
Supreme
intended
Court.
to gaslight.
And he would have repealed
the audience.
ACA had it not
Yeah,
been
no,
for
he
the
doesn't
courage of
have
John
the
McCain
the
to
leaps
save
in
that
logic
bill.
and the gaslighting.
Now, fast forward. What
Best
that means to
illustrated
you
by the
is
abortion
you lose
story
your pre-existing conditions. If you're sitting at home and you
is
got
they-
asthma, too bad. If you're a
they
woman,
trust their
probably
audience
not.
will never look
Broke your
into
foot during
anything
football,
that might
kick you
undermine
out.
their confirmation
your kids
bias.
Get kicked out when they're 26. Kamala Harris negotiated drug prices for the first time
Kamala
with
Harris.
Medicare. We have 10 drugs that will come online, the most common ones that will
Come
be there.
online.
But look,
Come,
this
yeah,
issue-
come all
There's
over
a
your
lot,
web.
Donald
there's
Trump
a lot of
said,
websites where people
I've got a
come
concept of a
online.
plan.
There's
It
sticky
cracked me
websites.
up as
There's a
fourth
lot of
grade
coming
teacher because
online.
my kid
Coming
would never
everywhere
get
in
to do that.
in the Wallace Harris.
Right
What
now,
Senator
as
Vance
we
just
speak,
explained
so many
might
people
be
are
worse
coming
than a
online.
concept.
Right, it's
Because
what people
he
do. A lot of
explained
people
is
spend most of their
pre-Obamacare.
time doing.
And I'll make this
Coming
as simple as
online.
possible.
Like
because
Tim
I
Walz.
have
Tim Walz
done
probably
this
has
for
a
long
private
time.
website where
What
he does a
they're
lot of that.
saying is, if you're healthy, why should you be paying more? So what they're going to do is let insurance companies pick who they insure, because guess what happens? You pay your premium.
No, there's no
it's not much.
substance. You're
They
right,
figure they're not
Denver.
gonna have to pay
There's
out to
no-
you. But those of you a little older, gray,
If
know,
you
got
evaluate
cancer, you're going to get kicked
the
out of
substance
it.
given,
That's
of
why
course,
the
all
system didn't
politicians
work.
are going to gloss
Kamala
over
Harris
things. They're
will
going to use
protect
logical
and enhance
fallacies.
The ACA.
But the amount,
Governor, thank you.
the
Senator,
leaps
you
in
have not yet
logic
explained how you
coming
would
from
protect
Wallace,
people
Har-
with pre-existing conditions or lay
Wallace
out
and
that
Wallace,
plan.
Harris
Well,
Walls.
look, we currently have
It's unbelievable.
laws
They
and
give
regulations
nothing.
in place right now that protect people with pre-existing conditions. We want to keep
Yeah,
those
come online,
regulations
not in
place,
that
but we
pee,
also
not
wanna
not in
make
that
the health
bussy,
insurance
not in that
marketplace
Walls
function a little
bussy.
bit better. Now, what Governor Walz just said is actually not true. A lot of what happened, and the reason that Obamacare was crushing under its own weight, is that a lot of young and healthy people were leaving the exchanges. Donald Trump actually helped
I would really like to
address
see
that
Trump
problem,
debate
and
Walz.
he did so in a way that preserved people's access
Would
to
that be-
coverage
that'd be
who had
entertaining, I
pre-existing
think.
conditions. But again, something that these guys do
bad.
is they make a lot of
So
claims
bad.
about
How?
if Donald Trump becomes president, all of these terrible consequences are going to ensue. But in reality,
Nod his
Donald
head.
Trump was president.
Fucking
Inflation was
shit.
low.
So you know they
Take-home
did the
pay was
camera
higher,
framing
and he
practice,
saved
right?
the
Like
very
they practiced
program
all
from
this
the
shit.
Democratic administration that was collapsing and would have collapsed absent his leadership. He did his job, which is
this
govern in a
pose
bipartisan
that
way
he-
and get results.
That pose
not
he
just
has right
complain
now
about problems,
is
but
the
actually
same
solve them.
pose you'll see in
Governor, did
every
enrollment
single
under the Affordable
photo.
Care Act
Every
go
time.
up
Every single one of
under
them.
the Trump
He's
administration?
got that same damn pose.
It's higher now. that we've seen it go up. Look, people are using it. The system works. And the question about this of young people or whatever, that's
You
the
can tell, I
individual
think,
mandate
though,
piece
how
this.
short of a
And
temper
Republicans
Walz
fought
has.
tooth and nail
Oh, yeah.
saying, well, Americans should
Yeah, I'd like to
do
see
this. Well,
Ron
then
Paul
we have
debate
the
individual
both of them
mandate's
as
a good
well.
Shrink-
Steiner.
I think the idea of making sure the risk pool is broad enough to cover
that'd be
everyone, that's the
great.
only way
Well,
insurance
it'd have to be
works.
Ron
When
Paul
it
in his
doesn't,
prime.
it collapses.
Ron
You
Paul
are
now,
asking
I don't think would be-
pre-ACA when
Yeah.
we get people
Ron
on
I
Paul
still
now
think he'd
would-
probably do
People
okay,
like
but
going
Ron
to see
Paul
Willie
that they
Nelson.
need to be
back
on
in the
health
day.
People
Right.
expect it to be there. And when we are able to make it, and we are making it this way, when we incentivize people to be in the market, when we help people who might not be able to afford it get there, and we
You got
make
one
sure
more
then
break in
when
there.
you get sick
Only
and
done
old,
one break,
it's
they've
there
done
for
two.
you. Because I heard people
Willie
say, well,
Nelson
I don't want to buy into
still
Medicare or
alive.
whatever. Good luck
Yeah,
buying
I think he's
healthcare
a-
when
I
you
think
get
he's,
older.
Chris Christie.
So look, the ACA
Right.
works.
There's a lot of people that died this past
Kamala
week,
Harris
isn't
did
there?
that.
There's
the
a
way
lot.
she made everything
A lot.
better
There was a lot.
was negotiating those 10 drugs on
Kamala
Medicare
killed
for the
them all.
first time in American
Die in
history.
threes.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Margaret.
It was like
Well,
6 people,
I
though, this
apologize.
week.
We're out of time.
Right,
We have a number of
threes.
subjects to discuss. Margaret?
Let's talk about families.
Well, they only have
in
10 minutes
America.
left. How can they?
There is a child.
Doesn't she
care
look a little
crisis
palish to you?
in this country?
Just to
and
me.
the United
She
States is one of the
does.
very
I
few
mean, she's still hot,
developed
don't get me wrong.
countries in the world
She's all
without
right.
a national paid
Pete
leave
Rose
program
died. Yeah,
for
Pete
new
Rose was
parents.
like Trump.
Governor
I'm more
Walz,
partial to
you
the
said
other
that
one.
if Democrats win both the White House
Look, I'd
and
go
Congress,
thruple.
this is a day one
what about him?
priority for you.
Him or JD?
How long
No,
should
they- no,
employers
no,
be
they're both
required
staying
to
the fuck
pay
out of the
workers
room.
while they are home taking care
Come
of
on,
their
They want to
gotta
peek
have
through
one.
the blinds on the outside.
You
It's
got
their
to pick. You
prerogative.
got to pick
That's negotiable.
one of those
And
two
that's
to
what
go
Congress
with you
works.
with one
But
of
here's
these
what the deal
two.
is.
I don't have to pick any of these two to
Americans
go
sitting
with
out
me,
there right
dude.
now, you may work for a
What,
big
to go with
company,
me to be
we're home in
involved, or
Minnesota
just,
to
like,
some
be
of
in the
our
room?
To be in
4,500
part of it,
companies.
like you have to
Kamala Harris
go
knows that in
have a
in
threesome
California.
with Tim Waltz and
Those
one of
companies
these
provide-
moderators.
I don't know what world we're living in where
One
this is
I think
required.
they're moral, and I think it's a good thing. But it also keeps their employees healthy. We in
This
Minnesota
is what'll happen if
have to pay
Kamala
family
gets
medical.
elected.
If
Well,
you
you'd
have
be
a child,
forced into these
you-
situations.
And I had to go
Forced
back to work
thruples,
5
man.
days after my kids were born. This allows you to stay home a certain amount of time.
Forced
What
throuple
we know
policy.
is
Dikembe
that it's child
Mutombo
up, the
died,
better
yeah.
start, the family works
Holy
better.
shit.
We stay in their employers. We get more consistency.
He's 58, he had brain
Kamala
cancer.
Harris has made it a priority. We implemented it in Minnesota. and we
Kamala.
see
Kamala
growth.
was behind
That's
it.
how you become a pro-business state. But the negotiations on it, and here's the issue.
This guy
Those
doesn't know
state
shit about
companies are able
business.
to offer it. Those of you out there who don't have it, just imagine what happens if you get cancer or your child gets sick. We know what happens. You end up staying home. In some places, that means
Look
no
at his
paycheck,
eyes.
'cause you've
Doesn't
got
he
no
look
protection on
crazy?
that. This is the case of an economy.
I mean, he
that
looks
Donald Trump
crazy
has
in his
set up
eyes.
for the wealthiest amongst us. He's
Yeah, he
willing
does.
to give those tax breaks to
That-
the wealthiest.
that's
He's
where you
willing to
look. It's
say,
like in people's
"Bust
fucking
those
eyes, you
unions
know?
up,"
Oh,
Like
yeah.
acting is in the
what
eyes.
we're saying is the
Oh, it
economy
is,
works
100%.
best when it
Especially
works for
on-
all of
well,
us.
that's what it
And
is
so
all
a paid
about on
family
camera.
medical leave program,
Yeah.
and I will
It's
tell
all
you,
about
go
the
to
eyes.
the families or go to the businesses and ask them. As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. You can't expect the most important people in our lives to take either our children or our parents to get paid the least amount of money. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are
They-
able to
they
pay for
actually
that.
haven't
We
talked
were able
about-
to do it
see,
in
Denver,
Minnesota,
you're talking
and I'm
about
still
Israel.
telling you this. We were listed as the best.
They haven't
state
talked
for
about that
still
really
crisis on this.
much at all.
A federal
I wondered if they
program
would
of
stay away
paid
from
family
that.
medical
90-minute
leave
or
and help
2-hour
with this
debate?
It's supposed to be
will
90
enhance our
minutes, supposed to be
workforce,
over
enhance our
10:30.
families, and make it easier to have the children that you want.
Governor, your time is up.
Yeah, you're right. They
Senator,
haven't talked
do
about
you
any
support a national paid leave
international
program?
issues, have
And
they?
if so,
Yeah, I was
for
wondering
how
if that
long
might
should
take stick,
Maybe in the
because-
last
employers
30
be mandated
seconds, they'll go,
to pay
"We
They'll-
have
their
30
get it in
seconds
there.
left. What are your
home
thoughts on
taking care of
Israel?"
their newborn? 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first of all, Margaret, a number of my Republican colleagues and some Democrats too have worked on this issue, and I think there is a bipartisan solution here because a lot of us care about this issue. I mean, look, I
He's such a
speak from this
fumbling
very
jackass.
personally because I'm married
People
to a
love it.
beautiful
They
woman
want-
who's an incredible mother
Maybe
to
you're
her
right.
three beautiful
They-
kids,
maybe
but
they-
is also
yeah.
a very,
They
very
cast-
brilliant
they-
corporate litigator, and I'm
liberals
so proud of
are-
her.
they
But
cast,
being a working mom,
they're
even for
casting a
somebody
role.
with all of the advantages
Right.
of my wife, is
just casting a role.
extraordinarily difficult.
So they
And
could
it's not
see
just
him as
difficult
being
from
a down-to-earth,
policy perspective. She actually had
genuine,
access
while
to
they're going
paid
to
family
they could
leave because
portray
she worked
Vance
for
as being
a bigger
polished
company.
and
But the
practiced.
cultural pressure on young families and especially young women I think makes it really hard for people to choose the
Because
family
the
model
fact
they
that
want.
Vance
A lot of
went to
young
Yale
women
is
would
a
like to go
bad
back to
thing.
work immediately. Some would like to
Right.
spend a little time
That's-
home with the
that's
kids.
what-
Some would like
you
to
know.
spend longer at home
Wallace
with
was
the kids.
bragging how
We
none
should
of his
have a
students went to
family
any
care
Ivy League
model
schools the other
that
day
makes
to play into
choice
that.
possible. And I think this is a very important substantive difference
they probably
between
all
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris's approach.
dropped
I mean,
out
look, if you
because
look
of
at the
trauma.
federal programs
They're
that
probably
we
all
have,
professional
support
football
paid
players.
family leave
All played
right
in the
now,
NFL.
The community
They all played in
development
the
block
NFL, every
grant,
one of
there's
them.
another block
And if
grant
not the
program that
NFL,
spends
the
a lot of money from the
CFL,
federal government.
and there's
These
probably some
programs
other,
only
like,
go to
leagues.
one kind of child care
Yeah,
model.
some
Let's say
Canada
you like your
leagues,
church,
yeah.
maybe,
You know,
to
Russia
help you out
probably
with
has some
childcare.
combo
Maybe you live in a
football
rural area
MMA
or an urban
thing.
area, and you'd like to get
They
together
actually
They
do.
probably
They
do.
actually
in
do.
the neighborhood
No, they do.
to
They have.
provide childcare in the
I
way that
want to
makes
go
the
to
most
They have a
sense.
basketball
They
league
don't
like
have
that.
access to any
They've
of
got.
these federal
It's like
monies.
you're on a
We
soccer
want to
field,
promote
and it's like
choice
two
and how we deliver
gangs
family
of
care,
guys,
how we
like 20
promote
guys.
childcare.
They all just
Because, look,
run towards
it
each
is
other on this field, and they
unacceptable.
start beating the
And,
shit out of
of
each
course,
other.
Tim and I
Red
have been on
shirts
the
and blue
campaign
shirts.
trail a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
for
they're
the past 7 or
hardcore
8
over there,
weeks.
man. They
And
got a
one of the
rugby
biggest
basketball
complaints I
league,
hear from
too.
young families
You've
is
seen the guys
people who
in
feel like they
full
don't
knight
have
armor
options,
doing MMA.
like they're choosing between
No.
going to work
Oh,
or
they're
taking care
dressed
for
in
their kids.
medieval
That is an
knight
incredible
armor, beating the
burden to
shit
put
out
on
of
That's
American families. We're the
hilarious.
only
I wanna
country
see
that
these
does
two
it. I
do
think we could
that.
do a heck of a lot better.
They used to have
Senator,
medieval knight
thank
armor
you.
Yeah,
on during
medieval
these
You
debates.
times.
have also said, Senator
The
Vance,
medieval times.
God, the
many
last
things
I went,
about the
I went to
American
medieval
family.
times
The Federal
two years ago
Reserve
for my
says
birthday. My
parents
sister was like, "What do you want to do for your
will spend
birthday?" I was like,
nearly as
"Medieval
much on
times."
childcare
She
as
made
they
reservations.
do on housing
The whole
each month.
we all went.
So
My
I want to
nieces,
get your
everybody.
thoughts on
It was
this.
worse.
President Trump
We grew up in. My sister and I
recently
grew up in
said,
Orlando, so we're kind of
as much as
snobs about.
childcare's talked
We're
about
real
as
snobs
being
about
expensive,
tourist
it's
entertainment.
relatively speaking,
Right.
not
You know?
very
Yeah.
expensive compared
You know,
to the
that's
kinds
where I
of
cut my
numbers we'll
teeth.
be
You know, I was
taking in.
Igor at Universal Studios.
Is President Trump
Made-
committed
Igor?
to the
Yeah, man.
$5,000 per child
I was.
tax
I
credit
did audience
that
warm-up.
you
I
have
did-
described?
it was
Give
like-
That's
one
great.
minute.
That's
Well,
fun.
It was-
President Trump
dude,
said,
I-
Margaret,
it
I
was-
just
that'd
wanna
be
defend my
fun.
running mate
It was a
here
little
bit,
1,000
is that
seat
we're going to be taking in
amphitheater,
a
and I
lot
would
of
do
money
6
by
shows a day. It
penalizing
was 6
companies for
sellout
shipping
shows
jobs
a day,
overseas
30
and
minutes of me
penalizing
just being
countries
the
who employ
fucking
slave
goofball.
laborers.
It was to
and
warm
then
up for the
ship their
Beetlejuice
products back
Graveyard
into our
Review
country
show.
and undercut the wages.
Yeah, yeah.
of
You ever
them.
meet
and some of
Boebert?
those actors.
It's the heart
What's
of
that?
the Donald Trump
Boebert? You ever
economic
meet Lauren
plan.
Boebert?
Cut taxes for American
Beetlejuice?
workers and American families.
I'm not-
Cut
Lauren
taxes for
Boebert,
businesses
Congress.
that are
She saw the
hiring
musical
and building
Boebert where she
companies in
jerked
the
off the
United States.
Oh,
Democrat
that one.
dictation.
That's right. That's right.
Penalize
I forgot
companies
that
and
was at
countries
Beetlejuice.
that are shipping jobs overseas. That's the part of
Jack
the
says
economic
conservatives
proposal.
are
And I think what
pumping
President
the
Trump is saying is
Vance
that when
on
we
the
bring in this
socials
additional
already, I'm
revenue
sure.
with higher economic growth, we're going to be able
D's
to
last
provide
worked to the
paid
CFL
family
games in
leave,
Toronto,
childcare options that
slinging
are viable
$20
and
beers.
workable for a lot of American families.
Can
Look, you can
clarify how
scan.
that
I wonder
will
what that
solve
barcode
the
takes you to. Just
childcare
gay porn?
shortage?
Oh, it takes you to fact
Well,
checks. I
because,
just noticed
as Tim
that.
said, a lot of the child care
Oh,
shortage is
son
That
of a
barcode
bitch.
takes you to fucking fact checks.
For CBS News
people who could be
confirmed
providing
fact
family
checks.
care options, and we're going to have
Ice
to,
hockey,
unfortunately,
MMA,
look,
it's
we're going to have to
like-
spend more
Oh,
money.
ice
we're going to
hockey,
have to
MMA would be
induce more
great.
people to want to provide child care
It's
options.
just
for
in an
American
octagon,
families,
too.
'cause the reason it's
It's
so
just an
expensive
octagon
right
with
now
ice.
is because you've got
And they're-
way too few people providing this
Dude.
very essential
And
service.
they can take the
Thank you,
you know,
Senator.
skates off.
Governor Walz,
Use them as weapons.
your ticket also has some child care tax credit proposals. Do
She-
you think Congress
I love
will
watching
agree to the
fight-
$6,000 credit for
sports.
newborns?
She
and
seems like she's
$3,000
been
credit for
partying
children
late night,
over
which
the
I'm
age of
fine with.
6,
She seems
as
like a
your
party
campaign
chick,
has
but-
promised. Is that realistic?
Well, if these members of Congress are listening to anybody, I can tell you, and this is the biggest issue. Everybody listening tonight knows. I mean, I'm sure they were shocked
Yeah,
to hear.
the shit that
He
happens
said
in
that. He
Walsh's
has said
state.
And
this
let's be clear,
phrase
whether it's
5 or
5,000
6
or
times.
6,000,
Everyone
that leaves you
watching
about
tonight,
3 or 4
everyone
months.
listening
Let's be
tonight.
clear of where we're at on this. It's because we got out of an imbalance on this. We thought we were going to get by not paying people. I
These
don't think Senator
phrases
Vance
they
or
like to
and I are
use.
that far apart.
And they
I don't know
test
what he's
them.
talking about
Yeah.
on options,
So,
and
like-
scholarships types of things. I think we need to be open to making the case.
You know, I
But the
asked asked all those people we talked to, Ian, and even some of the other events I've gone to, I've been like, "Do you love? You must love Waltz as much as I do." And they're like, "Oh, he's adorable." They all
great.
love him.
They love him.
That's his alma mater.
So it doesn't matter what he says.
The issue
Just like it
here
doesn't matter what
is
Vance
those members
says.
of Congress, I can't believe they're not.
There's,
when I go
like
to
you
the
said, there's nobody in the middle
about
evaluating this based on
They
any
will lead with
substance.
childcare, and they will lead with housing, because we know the problem is, especially in a state like Minnesota, we need more workers because our economy's growing, but we need the workforce.
Governor, thank you. We need to move on. Nora?
Let's talk about the state of
I love how
democracy,
tight
the
Nora's
top
outfit
issue
looks. It
for
looks like she's ready to
Americans
pop
after the
that baby
economy
off, doesn't
and
it?
inflation. After the 2020 election,
Yeah,
President Trump's
Vance,
campaign
like, if she,
and
like,
others
Vance would, like-
62
If you were
lawsuits
living with
contesting
Nora,
the
she would
results.
never laugh at a
Judges,
joke. I don't think
including
she
those
laughs. Do you think
appointed
she
by
laughs?
President Trump and other
I don't think she
Republican
laughs. I think
presidents,
she
looked at
I
the
think she's a
evidence and said
dominatrix.
There was no widespread fraud.
And
the governors
I
of
think
every
Walz
state in the
would
nation,
throw up if she popped that
Republicans
baby off and had some
Democrats, certified the
lace on
2020
underneath.
election results and sent a
Welcome to
legal
Shake.
slate of electors to Congress
He's having a
for
seizure, yeah.
January 6th.
I can't
Senator Vance, you have said you would not have certified the last presidential election.
super It's a
good
You would have
question
asked the
here.
states to submit alternative electors. That has been
They
called
used to
unconstitutional
call them fake
and
electors,
illegal.
what they used to call them.
Would you again seek to challenge this year's election results?
That's interesting
even
that
if
they changed that
every
terminology.
governor certifies the results? I'll give you 2 minutes.
Well, Nora, first of all, I think that we're focused on the future. We need to figure out how to solve the inflation crisis caused by Kamala Harris's policies, make housing affordable, make groceries affordable, and that's what we're focused on. But I want to answer your question because you
Yeah,
did ask
answer
it.
the
Look,
question.
What President Trump has said is that there were problems in 2020, and my own belief is that we should fight about those issues, debate those issues peacefully in the public square, and that's all I've said, and that's all that Donald
The
Trump
media
has
and
said.
the
Remember,
indictments called
he
them
said that on
fake
January the
electors,
6th,
which
the
they
protesters
weren't. They
ought
were
to protest
actually
peacefully.
alternative
And
electors.
on
It's a
January the 20th, what
legitimate
happened?
thing.
Joe
Fake
Biden became the
electors is a
president.
propaganda
Donald
term
Trump
to
left
keep
the
Right.
White House.
And they have
now,
recently
of course,
acknowledged that. And now
unfortunately,
she
we have
called them
all of the
alternative
negative
electors
policies that
correctly.
come from the Harris
I would have
Biden
called that out the
administration.
fact that they just
I
changed
believe
the
that
way
we
they
actually do
described
have a
it.
threat to democracy in this country, but unfortunately, it's not the threat to democracy that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz want to
Kamala.
talk about. It is the threat of censorship. It's Americans casting aside lifelong friendships because of disagreements over politics. It's big technology companies silencing their fellow citizens. And it's
But there he
Kamala
goes,
Harris
taking more
saying
notes. Is
that
he gonna-
rather than
so let's
debate
see
and
if his
persuade
notes
her
talk
fellow
about big
Americans,
tech when
She'd
he-
like to censor people who engage in
Such a
misinformation.
fucking fraud,
I think
this
that is a
note-taking.
much bigger threat to democracy than anything
Now I'm
that we've
taking
seen in
notes,
this
Ian.
country
Yeah,
in the
I'm
last
fucking
4 years,
taking
in the
notes
last
too,
40
man.
years.
Is there gonna be a
Now, I'm
fucking
really
test?
proud,
Yeah, we're gonna be-
especially
there's gonna be a
given that I
pop
was
quiz
raised
by
by two
Walz.
Shit, we
lifelong
might get
blue-collar
arrested, and the only way we can get out of
Democrats,
jail
to
is
have
if
the
you answer.
endorsement of
You
Bobby
gotta
Kennedy
get a
Jr. and
90 or
Tulsi
above on
Gabbard,
those tests.
lifelong leaders in the Democratic coalition. And of course, they don't agree with me and Donald Trump on every issue.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree on every issue, but we're united
Yeah,
behind
exactly.
a basic American
And, you know,
First Amendment
adoption
principle
is
that we ought to
always
debate our
an
differences.
issue.
We ought
I mean,
to argue
an
about them. We ought to try to
alternative. You can
persuade
always
our
just
fellow Americans.
adopt.
Kamala
Abortion
Harris
is not the
is
only
engaged in
choice.
censorship at an industrial
There was an
scale.
article in the
She did it
AJC
during
today
COVID.
was
She's
like,
done it
there's
over
going to be a
number
rush of
other issues,
abortions
and
after
that
the
to me is a
after the
much
law
bigger threat
was
to democracy than
overturned
what
by,
Donald
I can't
Trump
remember
said
what it was,
when
some
he said
law
that
in
protesters
Georgia
should
with
peacefully
this.
protest on
And
January
so I'm
6th.
just imagining these people finally get to go have the abortion.
Well, I've enjoyed
my
tonight's
sister and I were
debate. I
both
think there was a lot of
adopted. Full
commonality
disclosure,
here, and I'm,
right?
I'm
You know that.
sympathetic
And
to
so
misspeaking on things, and I think I might have with
the thing that
with the
gets me
senator.
annoyed
But
is
there's one-
there was a thing in the New
there's
York
one,
Times
though,
a few
that
years ago.
This one is troubling to me, and I say that because
woman,
I think
she
we
wrote
need to
this
tell the
essay
story.
saying
Donald
that
Trump
it's
refused
time,
to
basically,
acknowledge
it's
this.
time
The
to talk
fact
about
is that I
abortion
don't
trauma
think we
and
can leave the
adoption
frog in the pot
trauma,
and let the boiling
and
water
how
go up. He was
she
very
had all
clear.
this
I mean, he
trauma
lost
and all
his
these
election,
hang-ups because
and
of
he
her
said he did.
adoption, and that she wonders, is
140
adoption
police
that
officers were
great
beaten at
after
the
all?
Capitol that
And
day.
after I get done
Some with
reading
the
it, I'm like,
American
yeah,
flag,
well, the
several
alternative
later
is
died.
Right, what's the
nothingness.
alternative?
In
Yes.
Minnesota,
That's the alternative. So
a group gathered
I'll
on
take
state
a
capitol
little bit of
grounds in
adoption
St. Paul
trauma, whatever the
and said,
fuck
"We're
that
marching to
is.
the
Right.
governor's residence, and there may be casualties."
That's
The only
crazy.
person there was my
Stupid
son and his
shit.
dog, who was
Everyone's just
rushed out
trying to
crying by
find
state
something
police.
to blame all their pussy
That
shit on.
issue,
You know?
and Mike
And
Pence
that
knew
is
as they
what
were
the
chanting,
Democrat, the
"Hang Mike
left-leaning
Pence."
messaging is
Mike Pence made the right decision. So,
the
Senator, it
the
was
problems in your
communicated
life are
every
somebody
moment.
else's fault, and
yeah,
we, the
don't
government,
deal
will
with them.
fix them.
You
And I
can't
said, as a
control.
football
You
coach,
can't
sometimes you
sit
really
down
wanna
and go,
win,
you know what?
But the democracy is bigger than winning an
you know,
election.
Yeah.
Shake
cigarettes
hands,
suck. I
and then
really
you
should
try
quit
and do everything you
smoking.
can
That's
to help the
right. I mean, that's the problem of all of society.
You
What's
can't.
at
You
stake
can
here?
actually do it.
Now,
You
the
can
Is
actually
like
change.
we have the capability to
The
solve
idea
our
that-
problems, but they
Yeah.
try and convince
So
us to
you're-
blame somebody else
Your
and to
political
dwell in
opponents
them.
were already laying the groundwork
And
for
yeah,
what's
people
up,
everyone?
accepting this.
A mutual
And
friend of
president's words
ours,
matter. A president's words matter.
who's very,
People
very,
hear that.
very smart
So
guy.
I think this issue of
He
settling our differences
recently
at the ballot box,
was saying,
shaking
well, you know, I'm
hands
really
when
not
we lose,
sure that
being
the
honest
electoral
about it,
college.
but to
I'm
deny
not really sure
what
about
happened
it.
on January
And
6th,
when
the first time in
It was
American
pushed
history
back. Got a little pushback.
that
you
a
know,
president
saying
or
that,
anyone
well,
tried
what do you
to
think would
overturn
happen? You
a
know,
fair
California
election
would then
and the peaceful transfer of power.
influence
And
what
here we are 4 years
everyone would
later
have to do.
in the same same
And
boat.
he was fine
I
with
will
that.
tell you
So he
this,
wanted to get rid of the
that
electoral
when this
college,
is
you're
over,
saying.
we
Yeah.
need to shake hands
But
this election.
I
and
try
the
to
winner
frame
needs
it
to
with
be the
people
winner.
like
This has
that
got to
as, don't you
stop.
see
It's
that you're
tearing our country apart.
disenfranchising?
Margaret?
Which
Senator
they
Vance,
used to
did you
take
wanna
the
respond to
opposite
that?
position.
Yeah, well, look,
The
Tim,
Democrats did.
first of
on
all,
that. Yeah.
It's really rich for
It's-
Democratic leaders to say that Donald Trump is a unique threat to democracy when he
They just say the
peacefully
messages
gave over
pumped into their
power on
heads.
January the 20th, as we have done for 250 years in this country.
The January
We are
6th
gonna
combo.
shake hands after this debate
Yeah.
and after this election. And of course, I hope that we win, and I think we're going to win. But if Tim Walz is the next vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my best wishes, and he'll have my help.
She's like, I don't
whenever
want your
he
prayers.
wants it. But we have to remember that for years in this country, Democrats protested the results of elections. Hillary Clinton in 2016 said that Donald Trump had the election stolen by Vladimir Putin because
Look
the
at his
Russians bought
face.
like
Look at Walz's
$500,000
face,
worth of
dude.
Yeah.
Facebook ads. This has been going on for a long time. And if we want to say that
He's gonna
we
take
need to
all his
respect the
anger
results
out
of the
on that
election,
fucking
I'm
kid.
on board. But if
Yeah.
we want to say, as
He's
Tim
gonna
Walz
beat
is
this
saying,
shit.
that this is just a
Allegedly.
problem
It's
that Republicans have
speculation.
had, I don't buy that.
Governor.
January 6th was not Facebook ads. And I think a revisionist history on this. Look,
Shut the
I
fuck up, dude. This guy's a
don't
piece of
understand
shit.
how we got to this point. But the issue was that happened. Donald Trump can do it. And all of us say there's no place for this. It has
Well, what happened?
massive
Tell us what happened.
repercussions. This idea that there's censorship to stop people from threatening to kill someone, threatening to do something, that's not censorship. Censorship is book banning. We've seen that.
Oh,
We've seen
there's
that
no
product.
censorship going on.
just
I
think
literally just
for,
had a video
everyone
taken
tonight, and
offline
I-
that we
I'm
did
gonna-
because we talked about.
Censorship is
Vance.
word banning.
I think this is the conversation
Censorship
they
is
want
word
to hear.
banning, sir.
And
I don't
think
like-
there's a
I
lot
dislike
of
'em both,
agreement.
too.
This is
Phrase
one that we
banning.
are miles apart on. This was a threat to our democracy in a way that we had not seen.
January 6th
And it
was not a fucking
manifested
threat
itself
to
because of
democracies.
Donald Trump's inability to say. He is still saying he didn't lose the election. I would just ask that. Did he lose the 2020 election?
Tim, I'm focused on the future. Did Kamala Harris censor Americans from speaking their mind in the wake of the 2020
Knights
COVID
Templar.
situation?
That is
Has she tried to-
that is a damning non-answer.
Has she? It's a damning non-answer for you to not talk about censorship. Obviously, Donald Trump and I think that there were problems in 2020. We've talked about it. I'm
There
happy to
were
talk about
fucking
it further,
problems in
but you
2020.
guys attack us
I've
for not
had
believing in
the
democracy.
the
most
best guy in the
sacred
country
right
has been
under the United
investigating
States
on it
democracy
on this
is the
show
First Amendment.
on a
You
regular
yourself have
basis since
said
it
there's
happened,
no First
showing
Amendment
actual
recognition.
fucking evidence that
Kamala
kept
Harris
getting
wants
kicked
to
out of
unite
court,
the
not
American
because of merit,
government
but
and
because of
expect
standing
to
and
silence
procedure,
people from
because the
speaking their
judge didn't want to
minds.
deal with
That is
it.
a threat to democracy that will long outlive this
I don't know
political moment.
what the
I
outcome would have
want
been, but
Democrats
can
and
they
Republicans
fucking
to both
manipulate the election?
reject
Fucking, of course they
censorship.
can.
Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Fuck
Yes,
you.
you can.
That's the
Yes, you
test. That's
can.
just
Why do
pure
people
fun.
keep
Tim,
saying that? You
fire in a crowded
absolutely
theater. You guys
can.
wanted
Well, we
to
should
kick
live
people
stream
off of
ourselves doing
Facebook
that
for
sometime
saying that
soon.
toddlers should
Senator,
wear
the governor
masks.
does
That's
have the
not
floor.
Fire in a crowded theater. That is criticizing the policies of the government, which is the right of every American.
Senator, the governor does have the floor for 1 minute to
Please.
respond to you.
Oh, he does.
Well, I don't run Facebook. What I do know is I see a candidate out there who refused, and now again, and this I'm pretty shocked by this. He lost the election. This is not a debate. It's not. It's not anything.
It was the most secure election in history. Say it. Say it, you cocksucker.
Look, when Mike Pence made that decision to certify that election, that's why Mike Pence isn't on this stage. What I'm concerned
They
about
changed
is,
a fucking
where
law
is
after the
firewall
fact. To like,
with
it's so
Donald Trump?
crazy.
Where is
It's
the
gaslighting.
firewall if he knows he could do anything, including taking an election, and his vice president's not going to stand to it? That's what we're asking you, America. Will you stand up? Will you keep your oath of office, even if the president
We have
doesn't?
an oath of
And I
office?
think Kamala Harris would
Wait,
agree.
when did
that
I
she
take
wouldn't
an
have
oath
picked
of
it if
office?
she
They're
didn't
telling
think I would
people,
do
will
that.
you accept
Because,
an
of course, that's
outcome
what we
before
do.
you know if there's
So,
any
America,
problems
I think
with it?
you've
I mean,
got a
that's
really
telling right
clear
there.
choice on this election
Oh, I know.
of who's going to honor that democracy and who's going to honor Donald Trump.
Governor, your time is up. Thank you, gentlemen.
Fire in a crowded
We will
theater
be
was
right back
propaganda in
with both
favor of
our
censoring
candidates. The
anti-draft
CBS News
speech.
vice
That
presidential
is correct, and it was
debate
also
continues.
overturned.
Yeah, that's what I learned in my first econ class, actually, in college, was about that. But this is the gaslighting here. And so I don't know what the strategy is with Vance or whatever, or if it's like part of the whole propaganda operation. But some people would say that, well, they don't want to even talk about the 2020 problems because it's not good for the polling numbers or whatever. Well, you know, maybe it's not good for, I don't know. But the fact is, there are so many unresolved issues, and everything they say about that stuff is a lie. And all of those lies can be refuted by Garland Favorito and the evidence that he has presented on my show and many, many other shows, and actual
Yeah.
evidence and statutes and laws. They never mention laws. They never mention statutes. He always does. And they always say the 60 cases it used to be 120, they used to say, but they changed it. And they say the 60 cases got thrown out. They lost every case. It was the most secure election according to CISA, which is a fucking government agency. And to say that an election is the most secure ever in American history, how can you even
ridiculous.
determine that?
That's crazy. It's just the craziest thing to say. It immediately makes me distrust you when you make that claim.
Exactly.
Because I know you can't back that up.
Exactly. They want to shut you up when they do that. And then you have censorship on YouTube. You have these boxes they put on there to give you context,
Yeah,
which
and
actually
all of a sudden liberals are for private companies' rights. All of a sudden, when it comes to censoring speech they don't like, they're like, "Well, it's a private company. You just build your own
Right.
Twitter. Build your own Twitter." Well, okay, Elon Musk did. He built his own Twitter, and you guys are still having a shit fit about it.
they have a shit fit about anything that can't.
And I never
be
used
controlled.
Twitter before it became X. Now I use it. You know?
Yeah. So yeah, and I have a penis straw in my hand, so I'm like it's a pen. I'm poking at my face
Yeah,
like
put
I'm
it in
Tim
your mouth.
Walsh or something like that. Oh, that I have my White Dude for Harris shirt on.
Dude,
right
you
now, so
really
I
do
can't.
drink chocolate milk out of that, don't you?
Don't you know that's supposed to be an off-air thing, dude. Yes, they have these. I don't know what these ads are. They're showing 48 hours. 48 hours. They should just have them rating people who were in 3-mile vicinity of January 6th for 48 hours. We interviewed people on the show who we did not. They showed us the footage, and we decided not to show it because we were like, the feds might come and arrest you. That's what we said, and we didn't show it. And it was just a bunch of people chilling out, milling and chilling. It was like Asian people and old people walking around. And they only show what I think were the infiltrated feds who were doing so. I'm sure there was people who got caught up in the whole thing, but it's just crazy, the rewrite of history and all of this. Like, you think about 50 years from now, what the story of January 6th is going to be, the kids will learn.
Yeah, I know. It's who knows what they'll romanticize it to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going to turn it into this day that they're going to. Well, every chapter in that chapter, they're going to have the picture of people climbing up the wall. That's going to be how they introduce January 6th to people.
Right, right. It's going to be people in Klan hoods. They'll rewrite the
we
history
start
on
here.
it.
Yeah, they're going to start there with that image.
They're going to show the 5 cops that were brutally murdered on that day, which they keep
and
telling people.
Didn't they just recently confirm that confirmed it, that feds were storming the Capitol too?
I played a clip 2 years ago from the CFR where they're talking about how they had black operations going on of undercover people in the January 6th stuff.
Yeah.
There's definitely feds there.
Of course they did. They have them everywhere.
Yeah. It's anything like
There's
that's why I
feds in
told people
there's
not to
feds
go
in
to
the
that.
Teamsters. There's feds in every single organization.
Any influential group that can shift the public perception one way or another. They're always trying to get these different groups of society to go one way or another.
There's probably drag queen feds.
I'm sure there's drag queen feds. Jack says Elon wants X to be the first app in your brain chip. Yeah, he does. The whole brain chip thing I'm definitely not okay with, and there's a lot of...
I'm not okay with it here's where I'm okay with it. If it's something that could stop an aneurysm or keep a stroke from happening,
From the healthcare angle of it.
I'm interested. I'm not going to be afraid of technology
Right.
like that.
Democracy matters. It matters that you're here. And I'm as surprised as anybody.
That is
of
the
coalition
the
that
balance
Kamala
on that
Harris
is
built.
when it can help
Bernie
people who are
Sanders,
blind
Dick
or
Cheney,
are paralyzed.
Yeah, come on,
and a
man.
whole bunch of folks.
But I also get the worries of
And
the
they
other
I
stuff.
absolutely
Yeah.
do too.
But they are
But
truly optimistic people. They believe in a positive future of this
This
country.
guy's full of
and
shit,
one where
dude.
our
That's why we need a
politics
more
can be better
moral
than it is.
society so we
And
can
I have
handle
to tell you,
Right.
technology.
that better than it is the sense of optimism that there can be an opportunity economy that works for everyone, not just to get by, but to get
WeChat,
ahead.
yeah,
And
he
the
wants it
idea
to be
that freedom
WeChat.
really means something.
Okay, that's in
Not the
China,
freedom of
Thomas.
government to be in your bedroom
It's like
or
the
your
Everything
room,
app, right?
But the freedom for you to
Yeah.
make choices about yourself. Now, look, we all know who Donald Trump is. He's told us, and as Maya Angelou said, believe him when he told us.
Oh,
that.
good.
His
Quote a
first
black
inaugural
woman.
address
It's very
talked about
powerful.
American carnage. And then he spent 4 years trying to maybe do that.
Dude,
Senator
Stoner
Vance
talks about the
made it
free
clear
the vaccines with free donuts. They were giving out. They were letting you bang a prostitute in some
Dude, I can
countries.
tell
for
you,
the vaccine.
I've
Excuse me.
got the solution
Kamala
on
Harris
how to
gives
get
us a
everyone to
different
get a
option.
vaccine.
Now, I'll have to tell you,
What
It's
is
got to
it?
give you.
careful
It's
about
got to
the
get you
quote, but
high,
there's one
man.
that Senator Vance said
If
that
vaccines got you
does
high,
He
you
said
would
Donald
keep
Trump
going back for more.
makes the people I care
Didn't
about
already
afraid.
give you a
A lot of
vaccine?
America
Oh no,
feels
no,
that
no,
way.
no,
No, you get another one.
Not
Let's
me, not me.
get those boosters pretty
Franklin
quickly
Roosevelt
into
was right.
people.
All we
That
have to
mustache,
fear
you
is
put your
spirits.
fake mustache on.
Kamala Harris is
I
bringing
think
us
they
a
should have
new way
leaked
forward.
in like
She's bringing
a
us a politics of
4chan
joy. She's bringing
chat
real
that
solutions for the
I
middle
took the
class,
vaccine and I got
she's
superpowers
centering
if they
you
wanted
at
to
the
get
heart of that.
people
All
to
the
take
while
them.
asking
Yeah,
everyone,
erectile dysfunction.
join this
COVID
movement.
vaccine might
Make
help.
your voices heard.
Yeah, I've been
Let's
hard,
look
been so
for a
hard,
new
harder than
day
I have been in years because of the
Everybody gets
vaccine.
that
Boner won't go
opportunity,
away.
and everybody
And
gets
it won't
a
get
chance to
COVID
do
either.
that. I humbly ask for your vote on November 5th for Kamala Harris.
Governor Walz, thank you. Senator Vance, your closing statement.
Well, I want to thank
I don't know.
everyone else,
I don't.
you folks
I
at
don't know the way to
CBS, and of
trust
course, the
Elon
American
either.
people for
I
tuning in
I
this
use
evening.
X,
And one of the issues we
but
didn't talk
I
about
know
was
I'm
energy.
aware there's a
And
government
I remember
contracts and
when I was
stuff.
being raised
I know
by my
people.
grandmother, when she didn't have enough money to
My
turn
whole
on
thing
heat
is just
some
I keep
nights
it like
because,
the
it
content
was
and the
too
actions
cold
that
at
people
night,
do. I
and
think is
because
the
money
thing
was often very
to
tight.
watch for me.
And I believe,
I
as a person
like
who wants
the
to be
memes.
your next vice president,
memes are
that
great.
we are a
memes
rich
are
and
funny.
prosperous enough country where
That's it.
every
Just
American,
funny
whether they're
memes.
rich or poor, ought to be able to turn on their heat in the middle of a cold
Peter
winter night.
Thiel, yeah.
That's gotten more difficult thanks to Kamala Harris's energy policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford a nice meal for your family. That's gotten harder because of Kamala Harris's policies. I believe that whether you're rich or poor, you ought to be able to afford to buy
Yeah,
a house.
I mean, this
you ought
is-
to be able
it's
to live in
uniparty
safe
versus
neighborhoods.
populism.
You ought to
That's
not
where
have
we're
your
at. Right.
communities flooded with fentanyl, and that too has gotten harder with Kamala because of Kamala Harris's
Yeah,
policies.
that's why it
Now, I've
just
been in politics
they
long
want to
enough
funnel
to do what
people
Kamala Harris
into
does when she stands before the American
personality
people
stuff and
says
to not think
that on
about
day
content.
one,
I think
she's going to work on
and
all
I think
these challenges I just listed.
just analyzing
She's been
content and
the vice
actions
president for 3.5
is the
years.
best way to
Day
protect
one was
ourselves from
1,400 days ago,
whatever.
and her policies have made these problems worse.
Yes,
I
exactly,
believe
Jack.
that
I
we
feel the
have
same way. It's
most
the best
beautiful
one, but
country in the
also
world. I meet
it wouldn't
people on the
surprise me
campaign
if something
trail
happened
who
on it and
can't
I were to
afford
get because I know
food,
there are people
but
that
have
get.
the grace
In
and
fact, I've been
generosity
suspended
to
for a
ask me
week on
how
it
I'm
recently.
doing
Twitter?
and to tell me they're praying for my family. What that
You
has
got
taught
suspended
me
for a week
is that
recently?
we have the greatest country,
yeah.
the most beautiful.
What'd
I don't
you do?
remember. I don't even remember
the most
what it was that I
incredible
did,
people
but I
anywhere
did.
in
I
the
got
world.
suspended. I
But
think
they're
I.
not gonna
Detention?
be able
They don't
to
make you stay
achieve
after?
their
Just straight to
full
suspension?
dreams
No, just
with
straight to the
broken
suspension.
leadership that we have in Washington. They're
Yeah,
not gonna be
I have
able
to go back
live
and think
their
about
American
what
dream
what
if
what
we
it
do the
was.
same
Did they
thing
make
that
you
we've been
write
doing for the
a
last 3.5
essay,
years.
like a 500
We
word
need
essay
change.
saying
No, I had to
We
do
need
a-
new
I had to
direction.
do
We need
a
a president
linebacker
who has
session
already done
with
this once
Coach
before
Walz.
and did it well. Please vote
They-
for
they
Donald
made you
Trump.
take a
And whether
class
you
on
vote for
YouTube,
me
didn't
or
they?
vote for
Didn't they
Tim
make you
Walz,
Yeah,
take
I was
just wanna
forced
say,
to take a
I'm
class
so
on
proud to be
YouTube
doing this,
about
and I'm
hate
grateful for it.
policy
God bless you and good night.
Senator Vance.
in order to.
How long was it?
And thank you both for
About 15
participating in
minutes.
the only vice presidential debate
felt like
of this
5
election
hours.
cycle. I'm Margaret
I've got a
Brennan.
number of
And I'm
strikes on
Nora
YouTube.
O'Donnell, and a
YouTube
reminder,
is.
there are just 35 days until election
These two
day.
bitches, dude.
Please get out
They're about
and
to
vote.
scissor
For all of us
hardcore.
here at
I know.
CBS News.
About to
Thank
rip
you
those
and good
blazers
night.
off. and
Yeah,
rip
they're
them
ready
out.
too. You know, they got their
Two poles are gonna
dominatrix.
Drop down in the middle of that CBSI.
About to start stripping. Tim Walz is gonna come in there and try to fucking bend.
See on the floor here, they got the CBSI. Couple-
Yeah, get in the middle of that eye. Go on. What do you think they're saying to each other right now?
Vice presidential debate. This election is now complete. It
What's with
was
the
a
hugs?
cordial debate of the kind that people mostly say they
Oh,
Yeah.
that's her. That's
Notice
the
here
wife.
the
I sorry, I
two
didn't. I
lingering
thought that was
on
the.
the stage.
I thought those were the
That's quite a
moderators
difference
walking
from,
across.
Yeah,
for
they're
a
coming
second.
over. They're gonna fuck the moderators.
Not even sure that Vice President Harris and Kamala
Stoner
Harris
says he can only get so
was a
erect.
debate in
I'm
which
with
the
you.
line,
I'm
I
with you.
appreciate what Tim said about Finland was one of the many ways in which Senator Vance agreed with the governor. The governor agreed right back. But that's
You
the
know,
tone. And
Vance
the
should
kind of,
be
theater
who
review
the
of this
progressives
Celtic
are
House.
backing based on just the race, right? But I guess the Christian thing just cancels that out. If you're conservative and Christian, right?
You're a
Because-
white Christian. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a
What
white
is Tim
Christian.
Walz? Does he say he's Christian or is he he Muslim or I don't know.
I don't know, dude.
I don't know. So what they do is they go for the black churches. Is they send, so when it comes to the local leaders where they try to influence people, this is why they separate white Christian nationalism from
Well,
Christianity. It's because they want to, yeah.
Leftist billionaires are currently trying to take Christian pastors and donate money to inject this DEI shit in their sermons.
Into black churches sermons?
In all churches, all churches.
Right, so
Every
there's the-
evangelical church. I'm sure it's happening at the Catholic Church. I'm sure it's happening everywhere.
Did you see the story about the?
Dude, that looks like a delicious straw.
I'll
You should
send
put
you
that
one.
in your mouth. You should put it in your mouth, dude.
No, dude, I'm not a pig,
Dude.
dude. Come on.
Do you think?
No, dude, you're not gonna give me to suck on this
Slap
thing.
it,
dude.
slap it on your
No,
face.
no, dude. Dude, I'd have to be really high or drunk to go for that.
Dude, put them in your ears like this.
What am I, Jocelyn, dude?
Put 'em-
I'm not Jocelyn. We don't have Jocelyn on with us today. Yeah,
Jocelyn's cool.
no. So what I've been
Jocelyn's
doing,
single, right?
I think so. I carry these every time I go to an event, just in case I see somebody who might accept a penis straw. 'Cause I'm trying to get rid of them.
Can you eat them? Are they edible?
I mean, it depends on how persistent you are. If you're determined, sure. It's
But they're not paper straws. That's probably why you got
plastic.
That's probably why you're having trouble with people at Emory taking them.
Because you think it's like
I used to manage a bar over there, and they made us, because remember right before COVID, it was all about paper straws and turtles, and then the world went on fire after that. It started out with straws going up turtles' noses.
how many penis straws
killing
we
them.
found in baby sea turtles' noses.
Turtles trying to suck on them penis straws.
Yeah, was what turtles just jammed in all of these.
All
yeah,
their
no,
holes.
they're very deadly.
Till they die.
Biggest killer of baby sea turtles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard zero Macho Man or Hulk Hogan quotes. Yeah, there was no Macho Man or Hulk Hogan. What is that twig? That twig is this penis straw. Stoner. So I passed those straws out to people at Dragon Con. Stoner, have you seen my video I did? Jake from Liberty Libations filmed it, where I went around wearing a White Dudes for Harris shirt, pretending to be a White Dude for Harris with a pink wig on, offering people cock rings for Kamala at Dragon Con. That's what these are left over from. It's because they all took them mostly. They almost all were very eager to get them. You know what I should have done, though? I should have asked him to suck on them. I didn't think about
Yeah.
that, Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Tampons for Tim might be another way to go. I don't know. I don't know. But Emory, so what is it? So Emory, the Emory students who are very scared of the trans, I don't know if I told you this, Ian, but I would like to bring an army of Jocelyn's back to Emory, like 24 people who are trans like Jocelyn.
I'll go.
Yeah, well, I feel like we can mobilize a big group of people.
I'm an attractive woman. You'd be surprised, dude.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think I could
I'm
be a
like
pretty hot
Ginger
chick.
Spice hot.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I felt like that was some agreement we heard there from your cat. Your cat said, "Hell yeah." You're a sexy bitch. I remember when they had that app where you could turn yourself into a woman. And everybody was
yeah.
posting their pictures of themselves as
I
the
know.
opposite
I
sex
had- I
online,
had
confusing a lot of people.
I had a friend of mine from the West Coast tell me that it was in poor taste. Doing that was offensive. Dude, they're in a time machine. They're in the future out there. They've been offended by stuff that we're only hearing about. You know, what did they say? No, about Ian? No, what did I say?
He's talking about being trans. And,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm gonna. I think I could be a pretty woman.
You do, but we're gonna. I think Jocelyn is getting that data for us. Just if we have to, we'll stand up. So
See.
I don't know. What are your overall thoughts on the debate?
Overall, I thought it was super boring.
It was
Super
really. It was
boring.
bad.
Like, really boring.
It was. Let's see if there's any more interesting Trump quotes real quick, and then we'll get out of here.
I don't even know why we're still having these debates.
It's for ratings, I guess. It's just for fucking
it's
ratings.
just so
That's all it
dumb.
is.
Like, nobody needs to see. Like, honestly, when after that very first Biden-Trump debate, then they switched to the town halls, the separate town halls. That's what you need. Just have a separate town hall. Schedule one night with Vance. Schedule one night with Waltz. and we'll just do that.
They just go out of their way to control every interaction that these people have with the public. Especially on the left, they do. They don't want any natural, real reactions. And I know from firsthand, trying to get into some of these events, they don't let you in unless you're controlled. What's up, Mortel? Straw man need to fight? Yeah, well, I mean, it is. It's a straw man fight. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah, Dick Straw, man.
Dick
Don't
straws.
Dick Straw man
Yeah.
my argument.
They should have to be holding those penis straws, those cocksuckers, while they're having their dick straw fights. So here's the latest. Yeah, I know. I saw it, Stoner. You know what pissed me off about the Braves losing 4-0 is they out-hit the Padres 7-5. So they must have given up a bunch of fucking home runs, which is why that pitcher's still in the minor leagues. It's because he gives up home runs, but, I didn't expect him to win. All right, so here is Trump is sharing what looks like an Elon Musk tweet. It says, could not be more clear that @real Donald Trump will veto a national abortion ban. He has said it many times, but this simple statement makes his position obvious. And then Trump in all caps says, everyone knows I would not support a federal abortion. Doesn't that look like an email from your grandfather?
I know. It's so funny, dude.
It's just in all
This
caps.
is the kind of email I get from an angry elderly customer. Like, as soon as I get this email, it's like, you're over 70.
It's just all, you got to mix it up a little bit. It's hard to read because it's up to the states. And no, he already said that. That's what he said an hour ago.
Yeah.
So nothing new. It's like nothing new. It's like,
Yeah, there's nothing new. Let's just do the election.
Look at this thing that he tweeted. He tweeted this thing that says Trump Vance 2024, not friends with school shooters. What does that even mean?
I don't even know. That's funny.
This is size. Got the grass, very well detailed, put in that ad there. And CBS is lying again about the 2020 election. Where is my apology from Leslie Stahl? She claimed that Hunter Biden laptop from hell was not real, and my campaign wasn't spied on. CBS News is fake. And then Nora just made a statement about the election, not a question. She's having a bad night, exclamation point. Waltz made a very big mistake on gun shooters. Does anyone think he knows what he said? Will he have a news conference after the debate to apologize to the parents of those who were so horribly hurt? I can't remember what he said. Do you?
No.
I don't know. It's all, it's all.
Well, I went into tonight with an open mind. Said to you at the beginning of the show, I was a gettable voter.
Yeah. So did you get won over by either?
I did not get swayed. I'm still going to vote for Donald Trump. I know that some people look. I don't care. I can't stand Kamala. Donald Trump's funny to me. I just want 4 more years of that funny, hilarious combativeness with the media.
You don't find Walls funny?
No. I find Walls to be super boring, concerned about
Would you let Walls babysit you?
Would I let him babysit me?
Yeah.
If I had to choose between Walls and Vance, I think I would let Vance babysit me because Waltz would try to molest me.
And you're opposed to
Waltz
that.
would be like, "Oh, do you have a poopy in your diaper?" I'm
Yeah.
like, "No, I don't even wear a diaper." It's like, I think we need to change it.
Right. And these are activities you're opposed to with Walls.
Yeah, I don't want Waltz touching, changing my diaper or anything.
He's
like
a
that,
state
or-
championship football coach.
Right. I mean, he's probably very strong.
Yeah, he might be very strong.
Very strong, dude.
Yeah, he could be retarded strong.
Look, Vance. I kind of look at it like this with these types of things. I guess when you have to make a shitty decision, whose house do you want to wake up with? If you're an orphan, whose house do you want to wake up on Christmas morning? Whose house do you want to wake up on Christmas morning? Do you want to wake up at Trump's, or do you want to wake up at Kamala's? Because, I think every orphan would rather wake up at Donald Trump's house on Christmas morning than Kamala Harris's.
Well, they don't.
And that's why we should vote for
Yeah.
him.
I mean, Jews don't celebrate Christmas, so
Right,
Kamala's
right.
house.
I know, between Kwanzaa
Doug Emhoff is not letting a Christmas tree in that house, dude.
I know.
But you get more presents through Hanukkah, so
Yeah, I don't think that's really true.
wake up the gimp.
You know, my Jewish friends have said that varies.
It's a disappointment, I feel, and I've heard that too. I've heard like it's not really like Christmas. It's
yeah,
like
it's not Christmas.
and I'm like, are you really doing the victim shit around the holidays also, bro? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You're getting 13 days of presents. What are you getting? Tic Tacs? You're getting probably business lessons and probably like insightful.
And I'm sure the
like,
presents get bigger. I think they get
they get bigger and
as the
bigger.
night goes on.
You
It
get
starts
like
out
a
as
Gentile. Here's like a fucking
Yeah. Starts
you
out
know.
as a little Amazon gift card and it
ends with a bank,
Ferrari.
control of a bank, and a
Control of a
Ferrari.
bank and a Ferrari. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, yeah. So he gonna call Brad? Yeah, he might call him. If I get a call where he's asking for some of that dick straw, I'm gonna make him pay for it, Jack. He's gonna have to. He's gonna have to give up the goods, and I mean financially. I don't mean any other weird way. A Montel Williams fan. I'd love it if Montel Williams would come out and make a stay. I'd love to see Montel Williams and Willie Brown do a podcast together just to talk about that pee. You know.
Yeah. Well, Willie, he hasn't really been too open. He's not as open as Montel is. No,
Not as calm
I'm
as
thinking
legs
of
were.
Judge Joe Brown. Throw Judge Joe Brown in there. Have
Yeah,
Judge
let him
Joe Brown
moderate
interview-
this
yeah,
little
have him
conversation.
Yeah, have him.
Turn those two against each other so they actually give us the dirt.
Yeah, isn't it in that clip? Don't they ask Kamala if
She's
that's
his
her
daughter.
dad or your daughter?
Are
or
you,
something like
are you his daughter? And she gets really offended and says no. Kamala Harris is like Curry.
She was gorgeous back then, man.
I mean, she was, dude.
You know,
Like,
I mean, she is an attractive older lady. She is. Still stupid as hell. Can't vote for her.
right.
Um,
But she never. It's totally unfounded that she slept her way to the top. As Jake Tapper tells us. No questions asked.
There's no
about.
evidence. Yeah, that's usually
He's like
what people
35
are
years
trying-
older than her.
That's what people are trying to do when they're sleeping away at the top. Not leave any evidence.
Right. They should demand. What they should ask her is they
Where are
should
the panties?
say,
Where are the panties? Show
Yeah.
me the panties.
"Show me the panties." And I would like to ask you, Kama, what is it that you saw as a 30-year-old, or whatever you were, and Willie Brown? Could you please tell, while he was married and you were sleeping with him, could you please tell us what you saw in him, and vice versa? Willie?
Love. You know, love is an emotion. Is an emotion.
Yeah, no, it's all fucking fraud. It's all fraud. All right, well,
All right.
Ian, would you like to tell anybody anything before we get out of here today?
Just keep your chin up, everybody. Just keep your chin up. Stay positive. Don't let the bastards grind you down.
That's right. That's
You know?
right. And it's all on the screen. Everything out in the world is great. It's better. And Coach Walls, don't let him in after midnight.
Yeah.
He has to be invited in, so just don't let him in at all, from what I understand. And J.D. Vance, also, I wouldn't let in either.
Yeah.
Kinda
'cause
creeped
he
out by
won't-
both of
He
them.
won't leave. JD Vance won't
He
leave.
won't leave, and everybody's got a couch or a
Yeah,
futon.
it'll be one
or a
long
glass
story
window.
about his mama.
Right. Yeah, mama, next thing you know, your vase is getting plowed by Trump's VP pick, and you don't want that. Yes, I loved how when we were talking to people and we kept bringing up the couch, they thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
I know. It was like so easy to make them
It
laugh.
really was so easy, dude. It was so easy. Maybe we should be gay comedians who are for Harris, because the way as funny as they thought everything we said was.
It should be.
So build social capital, absolutely. Build social capital. Don't let Coach Walsh in your butt. It's also great advice.
Yeah, don't let Coach Walsh in.
Smash the like button, you filthy animals. We'll end it on that.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll do it again soon. Talk to you next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.